Ray, we're not live yet. Ray?
It's a technical issue. I was hitting go live. Oh, sorry, I was hitting the go live many times, but it didn't seem to. I'm on live. Okay. Good evening and welcome everyone to another episode of Atheism and Agnosticism under Scrutiny with myself, Ray, and my very good friend, Errol. Welcome to another stream. It's been a fascinating time. We've had some amazing streams coming up till week 16, 17 now. I've lost count, but certainly a good number of weeks now. There's been some great conversations, but one thing we're really missing, and what a surprise, Al and I are not completely surprised, but maybe a little disappointed that we haven't really had somebody really challenge the atheist view that can provide some really good, what they would say is solid evidence to prove there is not a God. And why would you think we need solid evidence? Very simply, when we look at the universe, we look at humankind, we look at all the major facets of us humans, it screams out life, it screams out just an amazing experience, both emotionally and physically. It just attracts an experience of well-being, an experience that we cherish, whether you look at families, look at the way birth is and how we build as families, how we build friendships, how we live in an earth, a planet that is just so abundantly suitable, ideal for us humans to live in. And it just screams, that this can't have just happened by accident. It screams that there's got to be something behind it. So it always begs the question, if you're going to say it just came out of nothing, or it comes out of something that just doesn't comprehend any kind of purpose or intent, because it originates from something that basically doesn't have an intelligent design, it doesn't have a mind, and so on, you've got to then ask yourself, why would you then be satisfied with that answer just because an atheist or a scientist that has an atheist view makes that claim? And I just come across the other day, I don't know, Avril, you probably may know this already, but there was this whole big claim through almost as a given fact that we have discovered how we can build molecules from a single cell. But apparently it's in the schools, it's in books. It's not like, oh, this is a theory. It's almost like it's a given fact. But from what I just researched recently, no such case has ever been proven. There's never been a case where from a single cell any kind of molecule of life has been produced. So interesting piece of syllabus that's been added into the schools, maybe a little bit inappropriately, sort of shifted in through the back door and not been really challenged. But of course, we Christians will eventually come across it, and we did, of course. And it's now at a stage where it's seriously challenged, and for good reason, because we've got absolutely no evidence that one, science has, or man through science, because science itself can't do anything. Science is just a methodology that man uses to get some sort of response to initiate a process to explain things, but it doesn't actually do the process. It doesn't actually do anything. It's got to be down to nature and understanding nature and the source of nature. All that we do know is once we have a starting point, for example, whether it's, say, an animal, say, for argument's sake, when a male and female animal mates, they produce an offspring. We see nature working. The offspring will grow, develop. It will grow with all its key organs and attributes and all its key elements for life, and it does this accurately and consistently. And we see this in all life: human life, all animal life, plant life. A similar kind of process, also, albeit somewhat different. It still does this whole process of using very sophisticated, not blank emptiness, not some sophisticated empty nothing, but some sophisticated code, which we know has now been labeled as DNA, RNA, and the process of that. So it's all proven and identify that even though we don't fully understand every step of the way in the process completely, we have identified through science that it is through that genetic code. It's through a sophisticated code, not some basic code, probably about 10 times the size of a car manual, full of code written all in every page, billions of code lines. That when you think about that level of sophisticated, and Harold probably will shed some light on that because he's a programmer, but understand, I do to my degree of an understanding of it, but that it's, you need an awful lot of code to be able to handle all sorts of complex processes. And that's just, that's like a minimal compared, just nothing compared to the level of code that's underlying in every single cell. Not one or two, all molecules at cell level has this incredible code. And that, again, why would you then dismiss some form of intelligence. I mean, this is the bit that I don't get, is why can't they at least say, well, this at least would mean that if we could prove there is a God, then that could be at least one way to explain a possible source of the intelligence that would make far more sense than to say all this comes from non-intelligence. It comes from either nothing or for some random process, some even if you call the Big Bang, some sort of inanimate object that just through some explosion, through, of course, just chuck billions of years. But again, we said, you know, all these billions of years do cause all sorts of problems. When we look into the detail, really means we haven't got anywhere near answering the source of this universe unless we start looking at some kind of intelligent mind. And that's what we're really proposing to atheists, is irrespective, and sort of put aside all your bias and persuasive views that come from various atheist notorieties that exist, whether they're scientists or philosophers or whatever, but just practically start to consider, why can't we at least consider and agree that an intelligent design is a very plausible option? And once we take that step, we can then say, okay, there is a very good reason why intelligent design makes sense. Is there anything out there that we can demonstrate that has that level of intelligence, and of course has the level of power to be able to create this universe? Because it would require a being that is incredibly powerful to be able to create the universe as we know it. And of course, we know that 99.9% of the universe outside of Earth basically has no evidence of anything being created within itself. There's the fact it goes quite the opposite. They, you know, say the universe is expanding. Reverse that, going back in time, it would mean minimal. What would kickstart that? I mean, explosions could happen from something to create things, but again, that can't just happen out of nothing. Again, it still begs the question, what is the source of this universe? And we have been putting forward a very good case, because we have extremely good evidence that there is a God, not only in terms of our lives, how the God of the universe touches our lives. It's got historical evidence in the Bible of how God did touch humankind from a very early stage with his whole plan in terms of creating the universe. And you look at the Bible, the early books of Genesis and so on, even though it's at a basic level, scientists have at least understood that it does actually make plausible sense in the way it was described. And there's a lot of evidence to back it up in terms of events of like the flood and so on. We've got, you know, very good archaeological evidence to back it up. So it's a very good book to at least put the case for God, as well as our personal experiences. And then there's the whole philosophy of God and how God explains life, explains humanity, explains true morality, if you like, because we can see within humankind there is no absolute morality. It's all very subjective, but yet we have inherent in all of us the same natural inclination of the moral code that we see in Scripture. You know, this whole thing about love and the principles of love, it all is innate in us. The only problem is, due to our imperfection, we go astray. We don't always utilize that moral instinct. But then again, it begs the question, why is it we have this in every single human being? Because if we're just some matter that just bounces around through these kind of processes, there should be, this wouldn't work this way. We should have some people with certain types of morality, others with something completely different. It should be all random. And in some cases, maybe some individuals will not even have an ounce of understanding of morality. But we don't see that. Everyone, no matter how bad they are, and we have some quite bad people in this world, they still ultimately, when put and confronted, will always come back to the agreement. There is a agreement on that standard morality of care, friendship, love, running through everyone's veins. So it's a very good indicator again to the source of where does that morality come. And scientists have absolutely no clue. And certainly from the scientific method, it's not even the right method in the first place to prove. So that's some of the challenges out there. One of the challenges we had last week was, can we at least put out there, can you atheists, agnostics, come up with an explanation, whether it's at micro level or macro level, to the source of life? And explain to us why we should believe that the source of life is devoid of a potential God or potential being that has knowledge and power, that has the ability to create. So please do come on board. We'd love to hear your case. That's kind of what we've been waiting for many weeks, a really good, solid case, because when you hear some of the, I mean, I've listened to quite a lot of debates with various different individuals, atheists, what have you, in various different forums. And as hard as I try, I just cannot see anything that really convinces me or impresses me on really putting the case forward. A lot of it seems to be just a lot of sort of high-end talk. It's a bit kind of vague in many respects, and it's not really sort of what's a good word for this? Kind of breaking it down to a real clear-cut sort of understanding of how they can explain the beginning of the universe. And it tends to be, more than anything, is just more of a ridiculing of a God, you know, and more be, in some respects, just a complete resistance to accept the possibility of a God without really giving a really good, solid reason. I mean, and this is one of the things that, I mean, I was watching the other day when John Lennox was interviewed with Stephen Fry, and the only argument Stephen Fry could come up with is, well, how can there be a God with all this wickedness? And certainly a good question, because a God would not be someone that would purposely create wickedness. But again, this is not fully understanding the whole model of how God explained the creation of mankind, and how through mankind, through free will, made choices, which, if you don't have free will to make the right choices, then it also means, how can you truly have life if you don't have free will? We appreciate, and whichever way you want to spin this, free will exists and makes sense, because we do want to make choices all the time in our lives. We are constantly making choices that we are happy that we have the ability to do so. And that also means that you can at times make the wrong decision. So it is understandable that if man makes wrong choices, through wrong choices, there are consequences, of course. And that's what we see through history. It's embedded in scripture, explaining it came from the original first couple of Adam and Eve, and through that, sin entered into the world through their wrong decisions. Though we have free will, we also have this inherited sin. Not that it forces us. That's the important point, that it forces us to do wrong, because we still have the ability and the choice to make the right choices. And God has beautifully given us the blueprint of what those right choices are, so that we can have the best possible life. And that's around honesty, truthfulness, care and love, and so on, through those great moral principles that are very well described in scriptures, especially into the New Testament, through the illustration example given by Christ. So if we follow that, we would be amazing human beings, and it would follow that we would actually provide the blueprint of good, if you like, in life. But it's only because we are making bad decisions, the consequences of that has caused issues. And that over time, and if people are not making the effort to deal with those issues, it develops and compounds into worse cases. And that's where we're seeing the issues in the world today. It's down to the individuals with the choices they're making. But because we're in this wicked world, because we're in this sinful world, yes, it's true that this is not ideal. But again, God has an answer. He has his redemptive Son that has provided the way. God has come in the form of flesh and his Son to redeem mankind, that if we believe in him, we will be saved. And that's ultimately what God's going to do. He's going to fix this issue, resolve it by, for those that believe in him, respond to him in the right positive way, eternal life will be restored to those individuals in a paradise earth free of sin. So it goes back to the original plan, where then we will have the ultimate solution. And that's why we are preaching this so much and why we're putting so much effort, because we want everyone to share that great hope and not fall in the trap thinking that this is the only life we live. There is nothing after this. We're going to grow old and die. And for many people, lives are going to be taken short completely unfairly. This is happening way too much. If you hear the news about how many people are being killed, children being killed, and so on, if this is the only life that exists, it is so unjust. It's crazy. So, you know, we do really want to help people, and that's why we also have a stream on Friday. By the way, that's tomorrow. Where Christianity will be under scrutiny, and for those who really want answers to God's purpose, God's plan, and understanding more about the Christian view, which is the representation of God's standards and values, by all means join that tomorrow. So we're not going to cover that in specifically. We are here to cover the atheist and agnostic view, and we are welcoming any atheist or agnostic to come on board to share their view, explain to us the origin of life if they can. We will accept some other discussions as well if it's really a strong point to why they're an atheist. We will certainly happily take that on board as well, while we are still waiting for people to challenge that main question. If nobody is coming forward, then by all means, if you have a question specifically on atheism and agnosticism, then we do welcome you as well to join the stage and to put your case. And we'll give you the forum to put your case, you know, in the time that you need, so we can have a good, respectful conversation to not just put our point of view forward, but to give everybody the opportunity to put their case forward as well. And we have had one or two interesting discussions. So although, as I said, we are waiting for someone to really provide some really solid argument to why atheism is true, why apparently there is no God. Please provide the evidence, because it's so critical, as you can imagine, between there not being a God and there being a God. Because if atheism is not true and there is a God, which we do, of course, as Christians believe there is, that means there are millions upon millions of people being deceived. And not only are they being deceived, they're losing the opportunity of a far greater gift of a life beyond this one. So it's a very, very critical and important topic that shouldn't be treated lightly. Hopefully, any atheists out there, please take this seriously, because if you really believe it's true, then come forward, come on board, let us know the reason why you're so convinced that you believe there is no God, because we would like to hear from you. Any thoughts, Al?
I see. That's a good introduction, Ray. I see Sigma Waves is suggesting that atheism is the default position. It always bewilders me.
Yeah.
How atheism could be the default position. I know popular figures are advancing that idea, which is ridiculous, and this is where, you know, incoherence could be very much exposed. So if Sigma Waves, you're most welcome to come on board and explain. For example, Ray asks for evidence in terms of how there could be life from non-life. If you can come on board and explain how atheism could be the default position in that regard, that'll be lovely to hear from you. from non-life to life. Why would atheism be the okay, Greg, I think answers the question. Greg, you're not supposed to help Sigma with, but Greg is helping out, but he's saying maybe he meant not default position, but faulty position. But I mean, jokes apart, Sigma, if you are able to explain why that should be the default place, that'll be lovely to hear. But of course, you're saying you're in a crowded place, might join next week. Okay,
Okay.
understood. Please, we are looking forward to you joining at some stage.
That'd be great, Sigma. Appreciate it. Who else did we have here? You know, sometimes I don't know the names, but I can never forget some of the avatars we've got here. I hate everything. In fact, the name itself is not going to be quite unforgettable. Hopefully, you don't absolutely hate everything, and you like at least to have a discussion. Hopefully, that's something you do like doing. And if you do, you're welcome to join the stream. And would be great to hear what you think, what your views are from an atheist perspective.
There is Mot saying, why can't life come from non-life? Well, why can't life come from non-life? Because we don't observe such a transition at all in our experience. So, in other words, this is the default position. Life can't come from non-life is the default position because this is the only thing we are aware of.
That life comes from life.
That life comes from life. That's the only thing we are aware of. And that's the only thing, therefore, could be default position. If you think the other situation, the other case should be the default position, you need to demonstrate why that should be the case. Not just ask it this way because I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, if someone were to suggest that money grows in trees, they better provide some evidence. If someone were to suggest money doesn't grow in trees, they don't have to because we don't see them. See that happen.
Well, actually, it's saying that if life comes from non-life, so maybe money can come from nothing. Maybe it can just somehow give it enough time just appear.
Yeah, and I'm waiting still, right? I'm waiting to see when my pockets are going to be filled with money, and it doesn't seem to be happening at all. Anyway, so this is the reason. For anyone who's watching, our experience gives us the default position. Whatever we experience, to suggest that to be default, that's understandable. But if you're going to suggest something that we have never observed in reality, then you better provide evidence and stop suggesting that as the default position. Ita, by the way, Ita is there. What's Ita saying? Ita is saying, sorry, I missed the intro for today. Is there a specific theme or topic for today's stream? Ita, it's the same theme as what you try to participate in relation to life from non-life, Ita. So we're still on that, and we're still looking for some evidence.
So what's interesting is that you look at every single stage in life, it always emanates from life. The only exception to the whole process is just the very beginning of life. So every other step thereafter is always evidential of life bringing forth life. Why would the only remaining step of the billions of steps that we are aware of, that should be any different? The only problem is the source. And if we don't understand the source, we should at least admit that it would make sense that if that source itself had the ability to create life, there's no reason why that wouldn't make sense. That's the only step you really need to take, whether you believe it or not. It's just, to me, makes common sense to at least say, because everything is evidential around life, could make, forming life from life, then surely there should be some form of life that was started life. The only little catch to it, of course, or difference, I should say, is that original life must always have existed. But this is where we get into a philosophical argument. But we don't necessarily have to go down that road, because there is evidence of such a life that we call God. And that, if you want to be more convinced of and want the evidence of, please join us tomorrow on the Fridays, where that can be covered, where the Christianity Under Scrutiny can provide the evidence on why we believe there is a God, and the evidence that God is real, and so on. That's all contained in tomorrow's stream. But that's just one tiny step out of the billions of steps. So how can you say that the default position that's contrary to all those billions of steps is the one that then makes sense? It just, well, for me, I'm absolutely flabbergasted at how you can come to that conclusion. What we got here in the chat? What's this? Elwood. What's this?
Sister Westerwelle makes a poignant but funny comment there. But poignant, but very, very true. How popular media actually advances ideas without a basis at all. That you can have life without God, and all these sorts of stuff. It's utterly ridiculous, but this is what we hear day in, day out. And just to comment on this, 1 second, Ray. Sorry, Ray seems to have had a disconnect there. MOT, have we not observed chemistry? And isn't life just chemistry? No. That's not a good way of arguing for this. Have we not observed chemistry? And isn't life just chemistry? No, life is not just chemistry. That's the entire point. How can you have nothing produce all amino acids and everything else that are needed for life? Nothing to something is not chemistry. Something to something else is chemistry. Nothing to something is not chemistry. So life is not just chemistry, no. Who are the atheists in the chat? MOT says he can't join. Who's the other one? There was another gentleman who said he can't join today, but perhaps next week. Who was that? Sigma Waves. Sigma Waves.
Yeah.
Not today. Ita, yes. Today the focus is not on morality, but Ray, maybe Ita says he'd like to talk about morality at some stage. So maybe in the future, if you can maybe schedule something.
Be fine, yeah.
It'd be lovely to. Okay, fine. If there was evidence, there would not be a debate. I don't know if emoji. I've never seen such a self goal in my life. If there was evidence, there would not be a debate, and that's the entire point. And we are rather surprised how without evidence you have entirely. You made a huge bet on your life with no evidence. This is the reality.
Well, the other thing is, of course, evidence is not necessarily enough. We have many cases where individuals have the evidence staring them in the face, and they still deny it in many situations. It's just phenomenal how people deny facts that's right in front of their eyes. What causes that, I don't know. It's very sad. So, yes, indeed, it's bewildering.
Karan Musale, if you are coming from an atheist or agnostic position, and if you'd like to talk about it in detail, you're most welcome to join. But if you're saying if there is a creator, then she must be so powerful
Oh, there we go.
that it should be universal for everyone is very much true. If God is true, he must be universal. He's not some local God.
We got somebody on the stage called Noah, but the Noah I've not seen anywhere. Which is a little bit suspicious.
Come again. The Noah here is a friend, Ray.
Oh, okay, that's right then. That's
yeah, he's a
not
friend.
I was about to think it might have been another J-Bond job, but
Jay Bonkers. No, this is not Jay Bonkers. I can see this is a friend. He hasn't. Noah, you're not connected properly yet. Noah, I think your audio for some reason. Okay, you are now connected. Did you want to add Noah, Ray, to the stream? Hello, Noah. How are you doing?
Hello, very good. And you?
Yeah, by God's grace. By God's grace, we're fine. I was just introducing you to Ray. Ray Noah is a friend. He is a lovely man. He sort of has left Islam and he's now exploring. I think Noah. Would it be Noah? Would it be accurate if I said you are an atheist or an agnostic right now, or are you already tending towards Christianity? What's going on with you?
I am agnostic. I am a convinced agnostic.
You are convinced
that God exists.
Okay, you're convinced that there is a God.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. But in relation to Jesus, it'll be lovely to have a conversation. But tomorrow is the day then, Noah. Tomorrow we discuss how Jesus is God. You know, the Bible is the word of God and those sorts of stuff.
Okay, it's good.
So if you jump on the stream tomorrow, maybe if you prepare some questions as to what are sort of things in your mind in relation to the Bible, doubts or questions, criticisms, maybe things you've heard about the Bible, if you bring them tomorrow, we can maybe set aside maybe half an hour or something and go through them with you. What do you think?
It's a good idea, inshallah.
Yeah, absolutely. And soon, hopefully, it'll be Insha Jesus, you know. But tomorrow,
it's good also.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
thank you guys. Anyway, thank you. I still keep watching, huh?
Absolutely, keep watching. And apologies, we are sort of kicking you out multiple times. But tomorrow, hopefully, we'll take it from there.
Oh, tomorrow, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow 8 p.m. Okay, no.
Okay.
Yeah, super. God's blessing. Yeah, bye.
Take care now. So we do have somebody else, which again, not coming from the chat, and don't know if you can recognize.
There is a friend who goes by the name Display Name. I'm wondering if it is him. Although he comes from the one I know of, he comes from a Hindu perspective, so not sure what's going on. If it is him, not sure. Let me actually quickly check. Yeah, it's the same one he says. So it's him.
Okay.
You want to add Ray? Not sure. Oh, he chose. He chooses to be an atheist. Just for the evening.
It's like a day pass or something.
Okay.
All right, let's have a quick chat while we're waiting for others.
Yeah.
Hello,
Display,
hey
I don't want to
everyone.
call you display name. So is there a name I can call you?
Yeah, Arul's given me a name. It's called Nanban, and you can refer to
His
call me
friend.
with the name.
You can just call him friend.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Hey, Arul.
So would you
Hey,
like,
Ray. How are you guys?
we're good, thanks. Anything you'd like to share with us on your mind?
Yeah, so I've been an atheist for 14 years, so I pretty much know all the questions and answers about atheism. So I thought maybe let me try one of my old questions, which I
Good.
typically tend to ask religious people. Right? Maybe see if I could at least entertain the evening though.
Sounds good, man.
So this question comes from there's a discussion happened. Nothing comes from nothing. Like something has to come from something, right? So there has to be a creator. So this is where the argument goes. If God created everything, God couldn't have created things from nothing, correct?
Yes.
Which means God's essence is part of his creations. His creation, sorry. Correct?
Well, the only little issue with that is we just don't know how God actually created. It doesn't give us that level of detail. He just says he creates, he made things happen. All we know is he's all powerful, all knowing. So we actually don't know the answer. So we can't give an answer on behalf of God of how exactly he's created the universe. It makes logical sense. It's somehow come from his essence, but we just don't know specifically how.
Because there is no other alternate options. If it wasn't from
I
God's
agree.
essence, which
We just
means
don't know that. We just don't know the details, so we can't really entertain it beyond the fact that we know it's come from God, but exactly how it's come from God, we couldn't really. We'd be just speculating.
So display name, just to dear friend, so your question is creation from the essence of God? Is that the question?
kind of. So if creation can't come, creation can't come from nothing. Someone has to be created, and the someone who created it has to create it from something, or himself or herself, right?
Yeah. I mean, long story short, you are actually very right there. The Bible is very clear. We live, we move, we have our being in Him, in God. And so all creation is ultimately in God. And this is, of course, it goes hand in hand with the idea of omnipresence of God also. There are a couple of different references I can quote, but yeah, you are right. I actually am in God, in a manner of speaking, if that makes sense.
Okay. So the follow-up question would be, if God's essence is in his creation, how much of God's essence becomes not worthy of God that it turns out to be nothing? For example, let's take a stone or a tree. God has created a stone or a rock. How much of God's essence is in a tree that you consider it to be irrelevant?
What do you mean consider it to be irrelevant?
So if God's essence in all the beings, which means God's presence in all the beings, how much of God's essence is not sufficient enough for you to worship it equally as God?
So cool. And this is where you're veering into the Hindu sort of mindset there. Friend, I am in God, but I'm not part of the manifold presence of God. I am in God, but I am sort of meant to be an independent being within God, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's just say God created a tree, correct? So it's God's tree is a God's creation, right? It's not a man-made creation. It's a natural God's creation. So since it has God's essence, the tree has God's essence. We don't worship a tree, or at least Christian doesn't really worship a tree, because somewhere during the creation part you deemed it to be not worthy of worship, correct? Because the
Tree, I mean, let's get the terminology accurate here. Tree doesn't have God's essence. Everything is in God, but tree doesn't have God's essence. If it did have God's essence, it would be God. It doesn't have God's essence. It is in God. Those
so
are very
how
different.
was the Okay, so how was the tree created without God's essence then? Or how could the tree be within God without it being created by the God using its or his or her essence?
One thing I would say to Spades, when you go down this kind of road, you're trying to get in, if you like, the mind of God. If God has provided answers to those kind of questions, then we could provide an answer. But we don't know that level of detail because God hasn't provided that level of detail. We can only speculate and just give you the facts as we know them. But we know there's, as Harold quite rightly pointed out, the actual essence of God is not in the tree, but it's just something that God has created for a purpose. And it's really kind of all we really know. We can't go beyond that. We could speculate till the cows come home. It really isn't going to serve much purpose because we can only go by what God has revealed. Anything beyond that is only us trying to read into the reasons and the details that's simply not available.
So, in other words, and being an atheist, as in for this scenario, I'm an atheist. So, as an atheist, my understanding is so what understanding we have of God is what humans could have explained. What humans cannot explain, they put in a book. Hence, the concept of religion or God becomes irrelevant because it was man-made. Can an atheist argue from that point?
Not really.
Because clearly there isn't much that you can provide that I can't see myself.
Can I, Ray, can we take one step back? I really wanted to answer your previous question.
Because I really don't know where this guy's going with this. So over to you.
Yeah. Please note carefully, follow this carefully, friend. To say that we are in God is very different from saying that we have the essence of God. Those are very different things, completely different things. And clarify what I mean. To say that I live in the UK, like I am currently in the UK, yeah. To say that I am in the UK is very different from saying I have the essence of UK in me. Do you appreciate that?
Correct, but I'm not arguing that UK created you.
Don't do too much. Don't do the but right now. This needs to settle down because I don't know why you even got into that mindset so far. To say that I am in the UK is an ocean apart from saying the essence of UK is in me. They are completely different things.
Yeah, for UK it applies. No argument there. Right?
It applies to even UK. How much more to God? To say I am in God is very different from saying God's essence is in me. To say God's essence is in me, I need to have God in me, the entirety of God in me, which I can't. That's not the claim when we say I am in God.
So
These are very
then,
things.
taking one step back, so if you can't have God's essence in you, then God created you from nothing because there's no essence of God in His creation. Correct? Which means
No. And here is where, please don't obsess with the way you started the. Please don't be insistent on going with the phrase or the way in which you phrased your points first. Let me repeat. This is the more accurate way of representing what we've discussed so far. I am in God. I am in God. Yeah, with me so far?
okay,
I
yeah.
am in God. No one is claiming entirety of God is in me. No one is claiming that. If that is what we claim, then you can say God's essence is in me. No one is claiming that. I am in God. And that, to explain that, you can take one step back and say, hey, God created everything within him, and therefore I am in him. That's all. And therefore, nothing which is in creation, in isolation or together, nothing in creation, in isolation or together is worthy of worship at all. Because all of creation is just a tiny portion of God.
So sorry to interrupt. How tiny of God's essence you consider insignificant is not worthy of worship? How tiny?
Don't use the term essence. No one has the essence of God. Don't even talk
Okay.
about I don't know why you're insisting on the essence part. No
Okay,
one
let's
has
use a
the
different
essence.
term.
Nothing
God
in
created
creation
Earth.
has the essence of God.
Okay, let's not use the term essence. Maybe that's confusing. Okay, let's assume God created Earth. So God couldn't have created Earth without something, right? He couldn't have created without something, because if that argument goes, something can be created with a nothing, which means God created something without anything. So God can only create something from within him. So which means God's, if you don't want to use the essence, you can use God's powers, God's magic, or God's wishes, or God's divine source. You can use any of those terms. If God created something, which means he has embedded that source into his creation. Correct. So far we are on the same page. You can't create something, God can't create something without his will or without his power being involved in it, right?
Ignore the reasoning. I'm not on it. I'm not on the same page in relation to the reasoning. We can cut. We can keep that aside. I can simply we can agree on this, and we can start from here, which is that all creation is within God. We can start from there. The Bible is very
Wait,
clear. We live, we move, we have our being in Him. The Bible is very clear. In the book of Job, we find the idea that if God withdraws his spirit, all flesh would fall dead. We are ultimately sustained by him. We are in him. Let's start from there. The reasoning, I think there are many flaws in what you've suggested, but don't want to get caught up there. We can come.
not necessarily, right? So if it says we are part of God, it still doesn't explain how creation happened. Correct? We are part of God. How did the creation happen? How did we become part of God? That is not explained. I mean, based on what we discussed, I don't see that's been explained. And if we're
Oh,
talking about
no.
how,
No one is attempting to explain how creation happened. No one is attempting to explain to the level of detail you might have in mind. All that we are saying is God created us within him. That's the best we
so
can. That's the
oh,
most
I think
granular level we can get to.
so. That's perfect. Which means we can't explain how creation happened. Correct? How God created, we can't explain that.
To the level of granularity, beyond an extent, we can't. But to the level of
So
granularity we need to be aware of, we can.
which means your argument as a religious person and my argument as an atheist, your explain, you can't explain how creation happened the same way how I say how I can't explain what started the Big Bang, which means they're both on the same footing at this point.
This is
So I say
silliness.
creation happened from,
This is absolute silliness. Let me demonstrate this to you. I really can't believe, but that's fine. So,
okay, go on.
my dear friend, I don't know how many cells you have in your body. Do I?
Okay,
I
I
don't
don't think
know
so.
how big. Yeah, I don't know how big your stomach is. I don't know what is in your stomach right now. I don't know how long your intestines are. I don't have a clue about you at all. I don't even know how you look. I don't even know how old are you. I don't have. Of course, I do know you from a limited experience interacting over StreamYard. That much I am aware of. Beyond that, I haven't got a clue about you. Yeah,
Fair.
but can I claim that you exist?
Yes, you can.
So for to claim that you exist, can I suggest to others that you are a human being?
Yeah, that would be the sensible option.
Can I suggest to Ray that you are the same human being who spoke to me so spoke to us in the past? I don't know, in particular sessions in the past.
Correct. With the name, with the tone, with the discussion, yeah, you can always make, and you have a proof by going back to the old videos to prove that as
In
well. So
other,
that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. In other words, without having near next to no information about your inner working, I can still make very many qualitative judgments in relation to you.
For example,
That you
For
exist.
example, that you are a human being, that you are the same one who showed up in the past, and your mindset is of this particular manner. Your religious position is this. In the past, you asked these questions, you commented on these things, and so on. I can comment on a few different things. Yeah,
okay. So your
yeah,
argument is that without knowing my inner cell structure, my intestines, my stomach, you could still argue that I exist and I was the same person who spoke, and you don't need these information. Correct?
yeah. In other words, without knowing the inner working by a million miles, we can still make many very useful qualitative judgments about you.
Okay, I'll agree with that. That's 100%. Which means you're
And that
still
is
arguing.
and that is exactly what we are doing. We are making the qualitative judgment that God did create human beings without knowing exactly the minute details.
Wow, we did it.
I think
And
I agree with
no,
you
no,
100%.
one second, one second, one second. Without knowing the
Mhm.
minute details, we can come to a qualitative judgment through other reasons. Yeah, through other reasons that God did create human beings. God did create the universe. And the atheists are not on the same page, or not on the same footing here. Both of us are not on the same level of ignorance here. We do know through other means, without knowing the inner working of every little detail, we know enough to come to the judgment that God did create these things. The atheists are clueless. They have absolutely no
Exactly.
clue. We
I'm
have a clue.
100% with you. No,
We
I'm
have a clue.
100% with you. I think, but the footing right now, both atheists and the religious people are on the same level, because without the understanding, inner understandings, you can't make an assumption. You can still make an assumption saying that this is what it is. The same logic you can apply for the Big Bang Theory as well. We don't know the entirety of Big Bang Theory, but we don't need to know the entirety of it, because as per your own logic, the same thing can be applied, because we can understand that's the source of life.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
No, no,
haven't
no, no,
finished.
no. Friend.
I haven't finished. Like, let me finish my thought process before I lose it. Right. So the same thing applies over here, which means your argument was towards atheism, as in Big Bang Theory. We are on the same footing. You and I agree on the same thing. You call it religion. I call it science. Right. But the
Okay.
definition
You
of
done?
what you provided was the same as what I did.
Can't believe. That's fine. You have missed the plot. You have missed the plot by a million miles. Okay.
Okay. I'll bite.
In relation to Big Bang, is anything known, or is it entirely a theoretical model?
As much as a religious system, they're both
No,
equal,
no,
though.
stay focused. I genuinely think, in making 3 or 4 statements, you're making tremendous approximations, and you don't even realize that. And that is why I want to go one step at a time, one small piece at a time. In relation to Big Bang, what is known?
So what is known as how when it started. We're talking about 11.4 or 11.8 years, 8 million years ago. So billion years ago, universe was created out of a star which died and gave birth to a
We
new.
know it.
Uh,
We
yeah,
know
that's
it,
the
or we
hypothesis.
speculate.
That's
Yes,
that's the
hypothesis is
hypothesis.
not. No is different from hypothesis. Yeah, those are two different
But
things.
exactly, that's the same place where you are
Don't
as well,
go
right?
anywhere else. Don't go anywhere else. Just stick to this. Let's get to the bottom of this, and then we'll go to the other side. Let me ask you,
Okay,
please, again.
sure.
No is different from hypothesize. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, how much about Big Bang do we know?
Sufficient to validate that particular hypothesis to be the only hypothesis, only valid hypothesis, though.
Okay. What do we know about the Big Bang?
So my understanding starts from so the original there is a star which died, and that gave birth to a universe which gave birth to a solar system, and then the planets were created, asteroids were created, and then planets, the sun was created, and then the planets were created, and within the planet, slowly the temperature rose, and then the atmosphere was created.
No,
All
no,
of the creation system.
you're giving me the storyline. What do we really know?
Yeah, these are things we really know.
No, this is why
What else? What are okay? Okay,
maybe you
I
don't
think maybe I can be
understand.
clear. What is it
Maybe
you're
you
looking
don't
for,
understand.
like an answer?
Look, for example, in speaking to you, I know I am speaking to you. Yeah,
Hmm.
I know. You understand the word know. I know that I am
Hmm.
speaking to you. I don't know your name, but I know that I am speaking to you.
Hmm.
Where know is where I am intimate in knowledge. I am aware, deeply aware. I'm not speculating. I'm not hypothesizing. I know this, that I'm speaking to you. Who you are, your entire person, your details of who you are, I don't know. But I know for a fact that I'm speaking to a human being. Yeah. This is what this is the term, this is what I'm referring to as knowing. And I'm asking you, in relation to the Big Bang, I'm not asking for the hypothesis. I completely understand the hypothesis. I can give you the same. I can explain to you the hypothesis. But the point I'm asking is, how much do we know in relation to the model of Big Bang? How much do we know?
So we know sufficient information which we could derive from the existing info, which is the planets. We are living on a planet, and this planet does have an atmosphere, and this planet also has its own moon, and then we know there's a sun that exists as well, and we know we orbit around the sun. These are the consequences of the Big Bang, which means that gave birth to these things. So we are able to identify and understand these many things, and from here we know for a fact that these still exist because they have given birth by something else. So by the same hypothesis, the same logic, we can also extend to it by saying that Big Boss came, sorry, did I say Big Boss? Big Bang, sorry. Big Bang is
Too
the
much
one that
Big Boss.
started.
Too much
I don't
Big
know why I
Boss.
said that.
You've been watching too much television. My
Sorry.
friend, please. My friend, please. Big Bang. This is can you see the book that I'm showing to you? Roger
Roger
Penrose.
Penrose, Cycles of Time.
Yeah. This is this is one of the sort of predecessors of Stephen Hawking, and this is his model of how the universe began. What came before the Big Bang? Can you see? Cycles of time.
Okay.
Very simply, no one remotely in the scientific world is suggesting that Big Bang is the only model. No one remotely is suggesting this. If that's the
Yes,
impression
I am
you
not
get,
either. No, I am not either. Okay, let me clarify. I'm not either as well. I'm not on the same side.
you need to hear me out, please. Please hear me.
Yep.
In other words, nothing of Big Bang is known. It's a hypothesis. It's a hypothesis. Nothing is known. And that's precisely why we have other models. People have other models too. This is one such model. There are few other models. Long story short, in relation to Big Bang, nothing is known. If anything is known, then this guy, if anything is known as Big Bang, then this guy, even writing this book, he should be chucked out. He has passed away right now, but when he was around, he should have been chucked. He shouldn't be called a scientist anymore. But the reason he was still a credible scientist is because nothing is known of Big Bang. It's an entirely a speculative model, and therefore it's an entirely speculative model. People are happy with the model. Some people are happy with the model. I'm not saying they aren't, but don't project that as some sort of a model where some aspects of it are facts. Please don't do that. In
Here's the correction.
In contrast, in relation to God, if you were to ask me, do I know God? I'd be able to say yes. Do I know many things of God? I'd be able to say yes. Not just me. You can ask various other Christians. We'd be able to give you a personal testimony, like how I have a personal relationship with you, an experience with you. I have much deeper experience with God, and so is the case with many millions. So don't, and this is not lack of awareness. Big Bang, no one knows anything. It's a speculative model. In contrast with God, it's not a speculative model. We know him. These are not two things on the same footing. Please don't even conflate these.
I'll still have to go back. They are still the same. They're both speculative models, but one is not, which is the science part. Because as you mentioned, I'm not claiming Big Bang is the only. They say Big Bang now. Why am I saying the words wrong today? Okay, I'm actually sleeping. I'm supposed to sleep by 1 o'clock, like half an hour ago. I'm just, yeah.
That happens to me. I mean, sometimes when the stream goes past midnight, I can call Ray, Greg. I can do all sorts of things. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
No problem.
Nice. Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah. Big Bang is the accepted hypothesis.
One second. Someone points out that Roger Penrose is still alive. I am actually right. I stand corrected. I'm really, really sorry. I just briefly checked. He is still alive. I'm really sorry. He's still alive.
We can end him. We can end him and make this right.
We can end what?
We can end him and make your argument right. Well, I just took a dark turn. As in, we can end him so that instead of just taking a dark turn.
We find out who you are. We need to come and arrest you. Oh no, don't even go to that. Sorry.
Sorry. I was saying, it's the most accepted hypothesis out of other theories. This theory is something which is accepted because there is no other theory that can explain things more clear than the Big Bang. And since there's nothing else to contradict this, the stance and existing. I did not interrupt you. Let me finish my thought process. So since there's nothing that contradicts this, which still stands undisputed until something comes along to contradict this. So that is the accepted logic, as an external logic, accepted practice in terms of the what we believe as Big Bang. Now coming to religion, again,
don't go anywhere else. That's not right.
Not yet, because you gave me two examples. I spoke about one more spending.
Dear friend, in relation to what you said earlier, your suggestion this is the only model until it's proven guilty. You need to go with this is ridiculousness. No, that's not the case, and this is why people are working on other models. No one in the scientific community is going to necessarily say this is 100%. No, not at all. So please, let's not even dwell on that. You took
until other model comes in. Until other model comes in, this model is still valid, correct? Until someone else tomorrow claims.
I'm repeating no. I don't know what doesn't make sense in this. Which part of the no you didn't understand? N-O, no.
The logic part, I would say. So if you say there's something else which exists, and then you say that this is the valid one, and until someone else says this is not because of this particular reason, then that's the only one that comes in picture. If they can't prove it, the existing one still becomes valid. Until you disprove something, that still stands.
Okay, I don't know what in this is. Roger Penrose is a scientist, and this is his model. Do you understand that or not?
I do. Again, I understand that you have a book and you're referring to that one book.
You need to slow down.
But we need to get. We need to get more.
You need to slow down. Do you understand that Big Bang is not the only model? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I'm also saying the same thing. I'm just saying it's the accepted practice.
You're not. You suggested Big Bang is the only model, and until something else comes, it'll stay. My point is no.
Okay.
Many models are in existence. Many models are in existence even today. So let's not even argue about this anymore. Please, I don't want to argue about the obvious anymore.
You're misrepresenting me right now, because that's not exactly what I said. I was very clear in what I said. I was very clear, very precise, which is the accepted model right now is Big Bang. Nothing else has come as close to what Big Bang is.
Wow. What do you mean by the accepted model is Big Bang? How many times do I have to repeat? This is the model of this scientist. Do you understand what I'm saying?
But that scientist or that. Yeah, but again, that book is irrelevant to me because there are other people who could argue on the other side. For example, Neil deGrasse Tyson does not agree with this book. He agrees with the Big Bang theory. He's a celebrated astrophysicist. This guy, I don't know who he is. So if I have to put your book against Neil deGrasse Tyson, I will choose him over him any day. Like, he's an astrophysicist who lives right now, who is famous as well. He's good at what he does.
Okay, my dear friend, I please. I don't want to argue against the obvious. If you don't know Roger Penrose, please read up. Popular YouTube, social media guys are not the better scientists. And so, please, if you don't know Roger Penrose, I'm not accusing you. Please read up. Please
Wait, let me ask you, do you know who Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Irrelevant. My point was in relation to Roger Penrose.
And so is Penrose, because when he becomes irrelevant, if you don't have equal or contradicting ideas, if Neil deGrasse Tyson is a celebrated astrophysicist.
My friend, I need to stop here. I don't want to pursue this conversation. I need to stop here. My point very simply is there are multiple models, and the reason why there exist multiple models is simply because there is no unanimity in relation to the scientific community saying Big Bang is the model because we know some. No, this is you need to wake up. If that's the world you're living in, you need to wake up. That's all I'm saying. In contrast to that, God is very real. I have experience of God. Ray has experience of God, and God can be understood in history. And
Okay,
to
let
to
me
suggest
agree
that
with what you said.
to
Okay, I'll
suggest
agree
that
to what you said.
these two are on the same footing, to me, shows a great level of lack of awareness of the
Okay, I'll
argument.
agree to everything you said. But let's continue the comments. I'll agree to everything you said. You're not accepting Big Bang because there are multiple theories claiming the same thing, so it becomes irrelevant, correct? It's not true. It's not a fact. Can we agree to this statement? Since there are multiple theories, Big Bang cannot be the only theory, so which makes Big Bang not the absolute. It can be wrong. It is wrong. Can we agree to that? This was your argument a few minutes back. This is not my. This is your argument. You just claim that Big
My dear
Bang's
friend,
again Big Bang.
my dear friend, please, can I please recommend that you listen to our discussion in the recording again? Can I please recommend? Because in a short span of time, you're all over the place.
No,
Details
I'm not.
matter.
This is again. You're misrepresenting me again. I'm not all over the place. I am not falling into the way you want me to answer to your question. That's the only difference. You don't. You have a way for me to answer, which I'm not taking that. As an atheist, for the evening, I choose to be an atheist. My argument is that we just had an agreement that you said that Big Bang is not the right one, which means there are other models which makes Big Bang irrelevant. Can we agree to it? Yes or no? That's a
You
very
can
simple
watch
question.
the entire recording if you want. When you watch the entire recording, I did not make any ultimate qualitative judgment on Big Bang as a model, apart from asking you which portion of it is something that you know, and based on that, commenting that it is a
Mhm,
speculative model
mhm.
as much as there are other models. That's all I said. It's a speculative model as much as there are other models. If you maybe you don't pay attention to the details, but if you don't want to pay attention to the details, that's not my problem.
Let me
Please don't
rephrase
put.
it better. Let me rephrase it better. What is your
No,
position
you don't have
versus
to
Big
rephrase
Bang
anything.
and religion?
I have. I,
No, you keep claiming that I am not able to understand something, which I'm kind of offended because I am able to understand it. Because when you keep saying that, makes me like I am somewhat stupid, something which I don't agree with, right? Let me rephrase it. So you said, okay, let's assume we have Big Bang and we have religion. What is your position on those? Do you see them on equal footing, or do you ignore one? Is a question.
how many times have I told you they are not on equal footing? Did you hear that once or not?
Now that you mentioned they're not on equal footing, why do you not consider Big
Not
Bang equal footing?
I mentioned multiple times. I know
Let's
God.
summarize. Let's summarize it. It shouldn't take a
Wow,
lot
wow,
of time.
wow,
Let's
wow,
summarize.
wow, 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 wow. I've started speaking. I've started speaking.
Okay, looks like I'm getting on your nerves today. Okay.
No, you're not getting on anything. You maybe it's a half past one syndrome. Please listen.
Kind of, but yeah. But yeah, let's summarize it.
Yeah, what I'm saying, my dear friend, is that I know God. Does anyone know any part of Big Bang? Know any part of Big Bang to be true? I know God to be true. These are clearly not on the same footing. Very simple.
See, why this fails so badly is because you say you know God, but I don't know God. I'm the atheist for the evening. I don't know God. So what you know could be anything for that matter. It still becomes irrelevant to me because I
Actually
don't know the
ridiculous.
God.
No. Do you know my mother?
No, but I wouldn't suggest your
This is
mother
one.
is
Wow. Do you know my mother?
as a human being with the same logic cells, intestines, and everything. Yes, I can assume
Excuse
that
me.
there is a
Don't
person who
don't don't
exists.
don't. You're not waffling.
These are your arguments from half an hour ago. I'm just these are just
Please
your arguments.
please listen to me. Do you know my mother?
I don't think so.
You don't know my mother. Merely because you
Mhm.
don't know my mother, can you insist that I shouldn't know my mother too?
That applies to Big Bang.
Eh, Please answer me.
Yeah, I'm asking
Merely
you. Does it
because
apply to Big Bang?
it applies to God. Merely because you don't know my mother, can you insist that I can't know my mother too? Can you do that?
Not really, but again, the
And
comparison
don't
apples
do
and
the but. Don't
oranges.
do the. Excuse me. Don't do the but. First, try and assimilate what has been said, because you're making ridiculous arguments and you're not even paying attention to get the points in. My dear friend, listen to me carefully. If you said you don't know God, I'm not going to argue. But don't insist when I have said I do know God. Don't insist that I could not have known God. Don't say this. I do know God. Are you willing to take my testimony or not?
I'll apply the same logic. I know Big
Don't
Bang is
apply
the
any
right
logic.
model.
This is not
Big Bang is right,
this
so
is not.
don't tell me Big Bang is not right.
Okay. Maybe you're argumentative. I'm not interested right now.
No, no.
Thank you very much.
See, this is the same logic, though. I'm not sure why not accept the logic. These are the same
Okay.
things.
My dear friend, please. Uh, thank you very much. I'm not interested in continuing in this. If you want to argue with this, I'm really not interested. I
So,
am saying I
kind
know
of.
God. I am saying I know God. I know him. I know him. Like I know my mother, I know God. If you are saying you know Big Bang in the same manner, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if that's the case, I could say if you think you know God, I don't believe
Don't
it.
say
That
anything
doesn't make
about
any
me.
sense.
Don't
No, no,
say
no, no, hold on.
anything about me.
No, no, hold on. You made your statement. Let me make. I believe Big Bang exists. So, to me, this is what it is. So, I would say this. I would put the same closing. My belief system stands. As an atheist, for the evening, my belief system has not changed with the argument because there is no proof for one or the other.
Cool. Thank you very much. You were careful. Just repeat, rewatch what you've just said. The last statement you made. I believe is what you said. I am
Hmm.
saying I know God.
Hmm.
Don't compare them both. Please don't.
I Yeah, again, apples and oranges. Your vocabulary for certain terminology used for certain words doesn't have to be the same.
Okay. Okay. Nanban,
I see the
Nanban,
same. I
Nanban,
see them the same.
Nanban,
I
Nanban. I simply can't.
disagree.
I simply can't believe this ridiculousness. Look, I have, for your simplicity, explained. I know my mother. In like manner, I know God. If you think in like manner you know Big Bang, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Then
In the
don't
like
argue
manner,
about
if you
more.
know God in the same like manner, did God take you to school and did he drop off you with the school and say bye bye, buy you ice creams and all those things? See, again, you can't argue the same like manner I know mother as God because they don't make any sense at all. They don't make any sense at all, to be frank,
Neither
though.
did my
So
mother anyway. Neither did my mother drop me at school regularly. No, she didn't. So
but
don't
she
don't
did
don't.
exist. She did physically exist, right? God, can we argue the same? Do people have people seen your mother or people seen your God? The same thing, like every
You're
school friends,
constantly changing the goalpost. Do you
co-workers.
realize this? Do you realize
You
you're constantly
brought
changing the goalpost?
these again, your arguments. I'm just extracting from your arguments.
No,
I think see.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, please. Let me ask you this very simply. One last time, and I'll stop it there. I mean,
Hmm.
my dear friend, I just don't want to end in an unfriendly note, and that's why I'm trying hard to get to a place where at least we can agree on something very simple. Do you know your mother and your father? Do you know both of them?
Okay, so here's a question: why do I have to
Will you
fall?
engage in a discussion? Will you engage in a
But
discussion at all?
isn't that what I've been doing the whole time? So you always wanted me to agree to
Take this
something, which I've
example.
always. No, no,
Demonstrate right now. Do you know both your mother and father? Please demonstrate that you engage in a discussion. Do you know your mother
okay.
and your father?
Again, according to your
You
requirement,
clear it
I will
out.
agree
That's
to
good.
it. Okay, this is your requirement. So you wanted it this way, and I'll agree to it. Based on how you want it, we can do it, but it's still not the same. You can't convince an atheist that this is what it is because of your requirement. As an atheist, I still won't buy it because this is again from your perception, not from you're not convincing me is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
Are you trying to answer my simple question of do you know your mother and your father? I don't see the answer come through. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Learn to engage in a simple conversation, my dear friend.
Wait, hold
Don't
on.
rant
Again,
on.
now
We're not
are you
fighting
saying that
against each other.
okay, if anyone who's lost their cool, that's not me, it's you. If you can go back and listen to this audio, you would know how calm I've been the whole time. I haven't
No
even raised
one
my
is
voice.
talking about being calm right now.
No,
All that I'm
you
saying
said
is you cannot answer a simple question that I'm asking.
I have.
Do you know
I,
your
I have.
father and your mother?
I've answered all your questions. I don't mind
Do
answering this
you
question
know
as well.
your father and your
See,
mother?
again, you're not letting me speak because
Do
you want
you
me.
know your father and your mother? You have had plenty of time so far.
It's like you and Siraj in Speaker's Corner, the same
Do
discussion,
you
same
know
question.
your father and your mother?
Display.
Oh
Let me just
God, this is funny.
interject here.
Yes,
What you are
please.
doing is
Change
you're
pace.
diverting from a straight question to go back
Which
to
one? Sorry.
a default position, which is not really entertaining the argument. To entertain the argument, we take one step at a time, which is to answer Al's question about whether you know your mum or your father, get the answer to that, and then see where it leads. Because if you keep going away directly from the question, it's not
Okay.
really a sensible argument.
Okay. Let's define sensible argument. So far, the entire argument, there have been multiple questions which have been raised, and I've
Not
addressed all
interested,
of those
my dear
questions.
friend.
See, again,
Not
now I'm
interested.
not, again,
Would
same
you
thing.
like to have a conversation or not? I'm asking a simple question. Do you know your mother and your father? It's a simple
How
question.
would, okay, you say, would you like to have a conversation by not letting me have a conversation? Does it not sound
Are you going to
contradictory?
answer sometime soon? Do you know your
Where's
mother
the
and your
answer
father?
display to that question? That's what the argument is leading. This is how
In other
arguments
words,
work. Right?
I'll have to bite the bait, is what you're saying. Just say it out loud. It's fine.
Look,
I'm an
display
atheist for the
name.
evening. Just say
Display
it out
name.
loud.
Look, I'm display name. I am not interested in a debate with you right now. I don't know what your qualifications are. Not interested in a debate. We are interested in a conversation. If you don't want a conversation, God bless you. Thank you very much. Would you
Big
like to
bang
have a
bless you as
conversation?
well. Again, I don't think so. There's going to be a conversation since you won't allow me to have one, and it's not a fair way to have a discussion as well. At least at this
Sure.
point, I feel that it's not being fair.
Display. If you
But
don't
yeah, I do
answer
know.
a direct
One,
question,
sorry, one second. I do know my parents. Everybody does know their parents. Anyone with parents would know their parents. So this entire argument would not make sense. But since you're pushing a narrative, I'm not willing to
It's
play
not
it.
an argument. It's a
No,
simple
no, no.
question.
Only sorry. Again,
Why
one
are you
second. Sorry,
always
one
in this
second.
argument with
One
your mode?
second. See,
Why?
one second.
I
Hold
asked a
on.
simple
Hold
question.
on. Hold
Would you
on.
like to have a conversation?
Hold on.
No, not interested. Display name. Please set up your own channel. I know you wanted to set up your channel. Please have your arguments. Not interested. If you can't have a simple conversation, not interested. Please. I'm really sorry. Thank you very much. Really,
Very
really sorry.
very immature way of doing this, but okay. You know what? Thanks. I think that's good enough, though. I've got my answers, and you got your answers. Thank you. I'll leave.
Thank you very much. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you. Apologies, Ray. I mean, for me, it was very simply, I was trying to bring out the point. You know, when he suggested you can't know God because God didn't buy you ice cream and say, send you off to school, drop you at school, which implies, in my mind, when I say I know two people, two entities, that I should have exactly the same experience with them both, without which I couldn't have known.
very dark, isn't it?
This is ridiculous logic. I just wanted to bring that point out by saying my father and mother related to me in very different ways.
And one of I think the great point you made there, which was the key, is there is a huge difference between a belief and a known thing. If you say you know something, that is not that you believe. Like your point is, your mother and your father is not a belief in that that exist, but you know they exist. That's a huge, huge difference. And he didn't really cover that. But what we do have is quite a few other people on board here. So in that meantime, you've collected a little bit of an audience. I'm not
But
sure.
I just wanted to say, I mean, I know he has I know he's a lovely man in one regard, and that's why it's a bit of a shame that he jumped off. But hopefully he'll come back. It's just that he wanted to make sure that he doesn't give room, and so on. So if you're watching, my dear friend, please, you're most welcome. But you need to be prepared to have a simple conversation. Need to be prepared. Yeah, we're not trying to play games with each other here.
So Naveen Singh, I don't know if you've made a comment. I don't know if you've read any comments. I'm just trying to go back. We'll take you on board, Naveen. I've got a feeling you are an atheist, but you're on board now, so you're on stage. So welcome.
Hello,
Hi, Naveen.
I'm on board. Hi,
I have a little trouble hearing you.
I am from India.
Again, if you can do with something with your
Arun.
microphone, or you're very faint.
Hello,
Hello.
hello, Arun.
Tiny bit better.
Okay, this is much. This is no, I'm not able to.
Naveen, we can hear you right now, as long as the quality is like that. Ray, can you hear him now?
Just about. It's just about.
Try and see if your audio in your PC is set to the max, Ray. Mine is at max, and I can hear him just about.
Okay, yeah. Let me turn mine up. Okay,
Yeah.
go for it, Naveen.
I'm good in Hindi only.
Oh, that's a bit better, yeah.
Oopsie. I know. I only know a little bit of Hindi. Apologies.
Oh. So, what is this Big Bang theory? Actually, I'm looking for the answers of this Big Bang theory, where people are saying that star collides with a star, then it's created the whole universe. Now I'm who created the stars? Then who created the stars?
Well, that's a very good point. So the Big Bang, to throw in stars, all these things, all of which is just pure speculation, of course, still begs the question. So what's the source of the stars? What is the source of all these forms of matter? Because what we would say is it doesn't make any logical sense that a star can create the universe on its own, because stars don't have qualities that would explain how they could form, make decisions, use power and intelligence in such a way to create the universe the way it's created. So it still would beg the question, where does, you say, the source of those stars come from as well?
So in our Hindu literatures, they told us that every atom and all the matters come from a God. The God is the only creator and God is the only destroyer of this world. So according to that, according to you, what it means?
Naveen, maybe there is a misunderstanding. We're not atheists. We are Christians. We're not proposing Big Bang as the model. We believe in Jesus to be God. And can we please invite you to jump on board on a Friday tomorrow? Tomorrow you can ask questions about Christianity, and Thursdays at 5 p.m.
About Christianity, I'm just asking about the God. Where the God is a creator of the stars, don't go according to Hinduism. It is a God. They are the God, and God is not a small thing that God is only Jesus or God is only Krishna or God is maybe Allah. God is a big name, that who is the creator or who is the destroyer of this earth or a whole universe.
What's your name? Are you Naveen?
I'm Naveen.
Are you sure you're not Naveen? Are you not Maheen? Not Bareen? You're Naveen?
Yes, I am Naveen.
And you're not Maheen?
Nobody can change my name. Still, my form will be the same. I am the same
But
human
are you
being.
Maheen?
You can change my name.
Are you
can
Osama
change
bin
my
Laden?
name.
Are you Osama bin Laden?
Huh?
Are you Osama bin Laden?
You can call me anything. See, it doesn't name doesn't give you the nature, your nature. Name didn't give you your nature. See, if you are arguing with me, you are saying that if I change your name, you will be another person. I am the same. You can change my name anywhere.
Yeah.
So some Roy will not able to speak my name fully, Naveen Singh. It is in Hindi pronunciation.
If you don't allow you to change your name, could you be known as Osama bin Laden? If you don't allow you to change your name, or allow me to change your name.
You can call me Osama bin Laden. I am not like that, and not like him, but I'm not
Naveen,
like him.
please
Osama
listen.
bin Laden is a
If you
great
don't,
terrorist.
Naveen,
Huh, huh.
if
Yes.
you don't allow me to change your name, can I change your name?
I don't buy this because I don't care what people calls me.
You don't.
People
But if you
because
do, if you do care, and if you say I can't change your name, can I change your name?
why are you asking about my name only? You are asking. You should have to ask me to change by nature or my culture or my things. What I am doing good or what I am doing bad.
My name is a simple example. Name is a simple
Name,
example. My
name
point very
you can call, see. You can call a book a book. You can also call it a textbook. You can
can I call a book
verify.
a table? Can I call a book a table?
See, you know Hindi or you know some languages?
I don't know Hindi. I know
Uh,
very little Hindi. Can I?
uh, you are in state Tamil or other
I'm a Tamil, yeah.
Tamilian. Okay, so you know Randi?
Rendi? What is a
Randi,
Rendi?
but Randi means in Telugu. Randi means please come. In Hindi, it's become a whore. So it's the same word with a different meanings. So you cannot tell that the same thing, what you are calling is same. The name can be the meaning is different. Always there the word have different meaning also. What I am saying is the word have different meaning, but the nature will be the same.
Naveen, Krishna is not Jesus Christ. It's a simple fact. Please don't just make things up as you go along. Jesus Christ is not Krishna. And if you want to know more about this, you can join tomorrow and ask some questions. But Jesus is not Krishna.
No, but Krishna is God and Jesus is God.
Wrong.
How?
You
See,
need to come tomorrow.
what?
Yeah,
Naveen,
Okay.
Naveen, we're on the
This
wrong.
is a religious topic. We are talking about another things. It is a religious topic. You'll come. I'll talk to you tomorrow, same time.
tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, similar time, please. Yeah.
Okay. Nice to talking to you, Arun.
Cool.
I see lots of your
Good to
videos.
speak to you, Naveen.
See lots of your videos, and I like you that how you destroyed the Islam, because I really means that this religion is don't have any scientific or a cultural value to our society. And this whole human society, it don't have any cultural values. So we will meet you tomorrow.
Yes, speak to you tomorrow, Naveen. God's blessings. Bye.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Okay.
Is that our friend Naren? Naren is our friend also.
So we've got Garden of Deluxe, exclamation mark, Sigma Waves Anonymous, Richard Dawkins, that's what it was.
Did you want to bring in exclamation mark?
Yeah, let's do that. Hi, I'm going to call you exclamation mark because that's what you are.
You can call me
your
James.
title. Hi, guys. Hi there.
James.
You hear me?
James.
James. Hi,
Yes.
James.
Yes. So just to kind of recap, so it's kind of along the same lines as the previous caller, who referenced the quote unquote Big Bang Theory, and I guess that kind of falls flat on its face. I come from a science background myself. My education is in science. My father was actually a science teacher. But the issue becomes where does the matter that formulated what you would consider the singularity that preceded the Big Bang, where did that matter originate from? So that's where that kind of theory kind of falls flat on its face. And then when you start looking at some of the principles involving matter, such as the Pauli exclusion principle, how can matter of such density occupy that space? What is the length of time that the matter was aggregated prior to the Big Bang? These are things that even scientists can't answer because it just doesn't really make any sense. And then there's other theories, like Arul said, that there's kind of like a rubber banding where there's a Big Bang, then matter expands, and then it recontracts, and then it expands again. And even that doesn't really make sense when we look at the universe now, the rate at which the universe is expanding. How then can the universe re-aggregate at some point? That doesn't make any sense. But my question then becomes, Arul, I was watching one of your videos earlier in which you were asking for evidence for the existence of certain figures within the Islamic Quran. And so then my question becomes, what is the burden of evidence? For instance, let's say we look at what they would consider fossilized evidence for the existence of dinosaurs that will kind of refute the biblical claim of the existence of Earth, which would be about what I would say was 6,000 years, the existence of Earth. But then we look at carbon dated fossilized evidence. And then we look at, for instance, the Chicxulub crater impact, the one that they believe the asteroid they believe wiped out the dinosaurs. And you look at how sediment has formed over the crater, that we can actually take a cross section of the crater and look at the different layers and kind of date the actual impact, which was believed to be 66 million years ago. But then my question then becomes, if we look at God as the Ancient of Days and eternal being, if he existed prior to Earth being existed, how then is an eternal being able to quantify our increments of time? For instance, we measure a day in the rate at which the Earth spins on its axis, and we kind of approximate because it's a little bit less than 24 hours. So if we take that increment of time and we use that to gauge what a day is, but then we have a being who preceded the creation of Earth, prior to the existence of Earth, how then was a day determined? Because in Genesis, he speaks of first through 7 days, the first 6 days being each day being a creation of a certain element of our existence. And then the 7th day he rested. But then if he's an eternal being, then wouldn't his measurement of a day be different than our interpretation of a day? Because the actual the narration of the creation was based on an inspiration by God, from my understanding. The prophets were inspired by God to write the books, right? And so if that being the case, then is it not possible that the Earth was not, or that, different elements of the Earth was not created in actually 6 days? Our interpretation of 6 days. From God's perspective, eternal being, it may seem like 6 days. But if something is eternal, their perception of a day could be distinctly different from us being mortal beings. So I guess that's my question, because by your argument, Arul, you have no evidence that a day of creation is the same as a day of today. We have no evidence to prove that or disprove it. So how do we know exactly how long a day is? Because even then, let's take this, even from a scientific standpoint, from an atheist point of view, the rate of the Earth's spin on its axis is different than it was, say, 4 billion years ago, even if by a minute amount. because of conservation principles of angular momentum, an object spinning would at some point slow down unless there's some type of force keeping it spinning at a constant rate. So we don't know exactly how long a day is. And so we can't precisely estimate how long the earth has existed. 6,000 years will be an estimate based on our interpretation of time as it exists now. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there are a few different things there. Did you say James? Apologies.
Yes.
James. I think there are a few different things there, James, that I'd like to respond to. Number one, you are very right. You are very, very right. When you say, of course, I ask for evidence, for various things, especially from Muslims, of course, at Speaker's Corner. And your point is, well, if you ask for similar evidence in relation to creation, then I won't be able to provide. I completely agree with that. And that's a very remarkable point. I completely agree with that. And here is the deal, James. With the Bible, for example, I can't provide evidence for a talking serpent, for example. I can't provide evidence for a talking donkey, for example. I simply can't. I completely agree. But here is the deal. Those are not my entry points into the Bible. My entry point as someone who lives in the 21st century, today, as someone who lives today, my entry point into the Bible are some other entry points. Number one, the historicity of the person of Jesus Christ, especially in the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ. For example, that's one major entry point and primary entry point for me. Once I understand, based on that, I understand Jesus to be God, Jesus to be a reliable source of information. And then once I establish that, I can ask him, Jesus, what do you think about the rest of the Bible? The Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures. If he says, yes, they're all my word, I'm fine with that. I'll go with that. My entry point is Jesus Christ. But actually, that's not the entire story. My entry point, even from the 21st century, is not just Jesus Christ. It's also the broad verifiability of the historicity of the experience of the nation of Israel. That is point number two. There is a particular very complex way of establishing, which I wouldn't try to do today, right now, but there is a very a more complex way than establishing the historicity of the person of Jesus Christ, especially the death, burial, resurrection. There's a much more complex way of establishing the historicity of the broad aspect of what Israel's interaction with God looked like. To an extent, I can say actually the Hebrew scriptures are broadly attestable, and especially in relation to Israel and the interaction with God. So that's my second entry point. And my third entry point is, again, in decreasing level of importance. My third entry point is, I am also the Noahic account of a flood. The account of a flood during the time of Noah seems to be historical also from the cultural records of various different ancient cultures. So that's my third, but slightly less in priority, entry point. And number four is, for me, that the biblical account of creation holds water philosophically, scientifically, theologically. So those are my four entry points in slightly decreasing level of reliability or importance. And so there, my point very simply is, if you heard my point in relation to the fourth, my fourth point, that was the rough description that is given in Genesis seems to be a tenable description of how the universe could have been created. I don't see holes in it. It seems to make sense. And by that, I do not mean I can verify every little detail given there. I only mean the broad structure seems to be reasonable. So this is my important point, James. No one who knows the Bible to a degree would actually say, I can provide evidence for every little detail. No one can. Talking donkey, talking serpent, I don't think we can today. But why do I still believe in a talking serpent? A serpent that came and spoke to the mother of all the living, the woman, the first woman, simply because my Jesus affirms that. And I can through evidence find out that Jesus is God. You see what I'm saying? So it's a slightly complex case. With Islam, you don't have this complexity. With Islam, if you note carefully, my questions are all related to the very simple 22 years. Muhammad, give me evidence for what he said. Give me evidence. How did you come to the conclusion that what he said is actually what is written down in the hadiths, for example? So it's all around that. In other words, I'm asking for what is supposed to be an entry point into Islam. The only entry point into Islam, which is the around 22 years of Muhammad's ministry, if at all he existed. I'm trying to understand the context of it and the detail of it. Could that be tenable? And I find that not to be the case. So I'm focused. I'm not asking them for evidence of every little detail in the Quran at all. I'm asking for the broad building blocks for which they need to have evidence. Does that, so that in relation to asking for evidence, does that clarify something, James, to you? What do you think?
Yeah. I think that really kind of sheds light on what the burden of proof is, but I don't think that within the context of that hustle and bustle of Speaker's Corner, you'll really be able to kind of articulate to the people you're speaking to, because there's so much stuff going on around you. So I just think it kind of goes over them. But
yeah. And also they don't even get to that extent. They don't even challenge us to that extent. Where you have understood very important detail, but they haven't, which is they haven't understood the basics of evidence. And that's where they fail very miserably. And they always try to escape and go here, go there, go everywhere, and so on. But when there is a need, like in the case right now, you're clearly asking, and you see a major point, and I'm able to clarify this major point. In relation to the other, so now going to the other aspects of, so in other words, based on this, yes, I can't provide evidence apart from merely trusting God, based on the time period, whether it is 6 days or whatever else, I'm just going with his testimony. But I have reasons to think it is God who is testifying.
Okay. That's where my question comes in. So obviously we have possible, plausible, and probable. Those are kind of the three, I guess you would say, burdens of performance: possible, plausible, and probable. Is it not possible that our current measurement of a day, our increment for time, which is a day, is it not possible that our increment of time differs from the increment of time or of a day referenced in the Bible at the time of creation?
Very lovely question. And here is where, with the understanding that for me, it's a second hand information. I'm merely getting it from God. As long as we understand that, now I can speak about this now. Very simply, many times people get people fall at this hurdle. If you read through various details of times in the Bible, God isn't particularly, today of course we're with maybe a sprint, in athletics, the sprint, and all sorts of other things that we care about. We are maybe focused on even the microseconds and whatever, nanoseconds and so on. But if you read through the Bible, you don't get that impression from God. God isn't concerned about microseconds, nanoseconds. He's giving you a rough indication of the time. When he says a day, what we understand, in the way we understand, is that, well, we are roughly talking about something that is around 24 hours.
Well, so actually, there's a specific text that references God saying, I can't remember the text exactly, but there's an actual verse in the Bible where God basically says not to get caught up on those minor details. there's a specific where it basically states that certain details about, I guess I want to say is a genealogy, something like that, where it's irrelevant, because there's actual references in the Bible that speaks of the age of certain historical figures in the Bible, and you'll see in 2 different verses, and I can't remember offhand, but I know I've actually read it. I've seen it with my own eyes in the Bible, where you'll see one verse where it mentions someone's age, and then you look at another verse in the Bible referencing the exact same person, and then it'll say a different age for that person. But the Bible reconciles that by saying not to get caught up, because remember, these are people individually giving a narration, but the overall concept of what the Bible is trying to communicate is what is important. So this is what I'm saying, that, you know, we kind of get caught up on details like what is the day, but in my eyes, looking at it from a scientific standpoint, I think that the actual measurement of a day would have been different coming from the perspective of an eternal being, because we have a very finite existence.
James, let me clarify. What I meant, I hear what you're saying, but what I am saying is maybe slightly different. Please hear me out on this. I think the Bible is accurate in what it is claiming to say. In the way it is presenting it, it is accurate. But all that I'm saying is, you know, when God says, hey, look, it was day at that time, but what I'm rather saying is, we're not necessarily saying like how we are measuring nanosecond, microsecond. That's exactly what you were saying. What I'm rather saying is, it is still roughly 24 hours. It's still roughly around the time that we would normally call a day. That I agree on, without which the Bible would have problems. So very simply, James, why do I think it's 6-day creation as opposed to, you know, something else, which is, you know, in the view of God, some other thing? A couple of different reasons. I mean, I'll give the simple reasons right now, and maybe we'll reserve the more complex reasons maybe for some other occasion, just, you know, in the interest of getting a few more people also on stage. The simple reasons are, number one, yes, God is outside of time, but God isn't necessarily speaking parlance which he understands and only he understands. He's rather in the Bible actually intending to give details in the way we would understand. So in other words, it was the intended audience in the sight of God when it comes to the Bible. Of course, initial books being written through Moses, but in the inspiration of God, is the intended audience is still human beings. So when God says one day, even before the sun was created, it was meant to mean one day as we would normally see it. That's the communication there. So clearly, in the way that's one simple reason. Another simple reason is clearly the 6 days are merely 6 days, and not something like 6,000 years or whatever else. I'll give you a simple example. You know, Jesus, for example, he says in relation to Adam's creation, or Adam and the woman's creation, he refers to the time at which they were created to be at the beginning, or in the beginning. In the beginning, Jesus, you might know, he spoke about divorce. He spoke about, you know, two becoming one flesh and that sort of stuff. And in reference to some of these things, he actually says in the beginning. It wasn't so from the beginning, in reference to Adam and the woman. So very simply, Adam and the woman was close to the beginning and not close to us. If the 6 days was anything like 6,000 years or 6 million years, Adam and Eve should have been referred to as some people who were created at the end, not in the beginning, because they'll be close to us than close to the 6 million years, if you see what I mean. So that's another simple example, and there are multiple similar examples. Very, very simply, the age of the universe, the age of the earth is has to be within the scope of give or take maybe 1,000 years or whatever, but within the scope of the 6,000 years that the Bible stipulates. Having said that, let me just make one more point. You mentioned about the fossils. You mentioned about aging, dating of the different fossils and that sort of stuff. Let's put it this way: by no means, I mean, you are familiar with science, and therefore I'm hoping you'll really understand this. the dating, especially based on radiometric dating methods, has crucial assumptions involved. It's not entirely scientific. The method is scientific, but there are assumptions involved. One of the crucial assumptions involved with the radiometric dating method is what is called uniformitarianism. In other words, if you know roughly, they're trying to draw a graph, based on the proportion of the radioactive element to its non-radioactive counterpart. They're trying to draw a graph and they are projecting it backwards. But for you to be able to project it backwards confidently, you're assuming things 2000 years before now were like things today. Things like 5000 years ago were like things today. That's a crucial assumption, uniformitarianism. But the Bible rejects that assumption in the form of the flood during Noah's time. If you read the description of the flood during Noah's time, you actually find a major cataclysmic event across not just the world, but you hear of what happened to the surrounding what surrounded the earth and that sort of stuff. So clearly that assumption would break down. And you mentioned about how the sediment formation layer by layer, people date again the crucial. I mean, the two broad contentious the two broad views right now are these. The so-called science, which is assuming this. The assumption is everything that we are seeing over a long period of time with uniformitarianism. Both are.
Well, I was going to say that with. Go ahead.
Yeah, long period of time and uniformitarianism. Whereas with the Bible, you have a short period of time and a catastrophe. That's the different. Uniformitarianism versus catastrophe, long period of time versus short period of time. That's the two competing packages, competing views in relation to what we are saying. And I would say actually there is every evidence to support the second view, short period catastrophe. For example, I'll give you a simple example. Across the world, we see fossils. You don't see fossils with uniformitarianism. You would see fossils when there is a sudden change of situation, where suddenly a dead organism is sort of enclosed, through sudden cooling down of stuff, or that sort of stuff, or sudden preservation through sand accumulating, not through a slow process, gradual process. So the fact that we have fossils across the world, the fact that we have massive geological structures, such as the Grand Canyon and so on, they're not explicable through uniformitarianism. They are really explicable only through catastrophe. And so, in other words, there are plenty of evidence, not the least of which, of course, is the testimony of God Himself, who has died and come back alive, who testifies of the biblical narration. So that's my take on that. So in relation to dating dinosaurs or whatever fossils we find, I don't go with the dates, not because I don't like the science. I do like the science of radiometric dating methods, but I do realize there is a limit because of the catastrophe, which not just the Bible testifies of, but also various other ancient cultures testify of.
Okay, so now I guess the question would then be, for the fossilized quote unquote evidence that scientists claim and anthropologists have claimed, paleontologists have claimed to gathered and examined, that corroborate the existence of dinosaurs, these large reptilian beings. Do you believe this fossilized evidence is real, or do you think it's fabricated fossils?
Oh, I do believe in dinosaurs, if that's what you're asking. Oh, yeah,
okay,
I
so
do.
then let me ask you this. So at what period of time did dinosaurs roam Earth? Did they coexist with humanity? Because my question then becomes is, why is there no recorded history? Like we look at, like for instance, those the cave drawings, the ancient cave drawings that are believed to have been, let's say, 60,000 years ago, the cave drawings that depict a man and looks like some type of mammals, roaming the plain. But we don't see any similar artistry that depicts humans coexisting with dinosaurs. We don't see that. We don't see any drawings from humans of dinosaurs. We only see fossilized evidence. What? Oh, we do?
We do. And this is where, if you email me, if you email us, James, I can send you some details. There are a number of artifacts across the world of people essentially independently. Of course, we're talking about hundreds of years ago, where it's not today's internet world. Yeah, there wasn't collusion between different cultures.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you see independently people from different parts of the world actually sort of leaving behind artifacts which can only be described as dinosaurs to us. Of course, they didn't use the word dinosaur. We're not looking for the word dinosaur. We're really looking for sort of what might come up, the concept. Yeah. So we have artifacts. We even in the Bible, if you read the book of Job, for example, we come across beings, Leviathan, the sea serpent. There are interesting entities being recorded even in the Bible, which clearly don't correspond to what we see anywhere today. People have in the past actually made some erroneous conclusion that they were talking about elephant and this that sort of stuff. But the description, when you read, they clearly are referring to what could only be described as different forms of dinosaurs. So you have records of them in the Bible too, and you have records of them in various other cultures too. So and as a matter of fact, I can, like you say, if you can email, I did come across in the past where there are even artifacts of footprints of dinosaurs and human beings at the same time, and that sort of stuff. Very interesting artifacts. So if you email, please, I can maybe collate some details and send over to you. Cool.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you got other people, so I'll let you go.
Cool. Thank you very much, James. Ray, you're on mute, Ray.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what he was saying.
Sorry, James. Yeah, just to say you've been really, really hospitable, and I love the way that you've conducted yourself. So really appreciate it.
Well, just so you know, I am a Christian. I just come from a science background. Yeah, I'm a Christian. I just come from a science background, but from my perspective, I'm trying to reconcile how some concepts I don't really agree with. Like the Big Bang is kind of contentious for me, but I think that some concepts perhaps can coexist if we find if we look within the scriptures and we can kind of decipher some of the things. Like, for instance, my perception of time, I believe, is different. Arul has given a great argument. I've listened to his argument, but I still disagree. I think that what was considered a day at the time of creation is different from what is a day today. But that's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, because that has no impact on salvation, in my opinion. So
yeah, no, that's a fair point. But my only point I did allude to was the Bible is very much a message to mankind to be understood by mankind. So God wouldn't really try to put a kind of narrative that doesn't make a way that we can interpret. So not that that's foolproof, but that would make the most sensible way that we would understand scripture, because it's directed at us, we've got to be able to comprehend it in a way that we as humans can make sense of it. So to go beyond it and try and, as look at it in a different way would be really problematic, because why would God explain something in a way that's contrary to what we as humans would make sense of?
Well, if God clearly defined himself as the Ancient of Days, he defined himself as an eternal being, an omnipresent being, an omniscient being. So if we look at things from a perspective of a being that's all powerful, obviously his perception could perhaps be different, considering the fact that, in my opinion, he existed before Earth did. And then our concept, okay, so let's ask you this. Do you think it's possible that I don't want to get too deep into this. Just a real quick yes or no question.
Okay.
Then we can leave it at that. But do
Okay.
you think that it's, remember, possible, plausible, and probable? I'm just asking possible. Is it possible that there are intelligent beings that exist outside of our solar system when we look at the grand expanse of the cosmos? Do you think it's possible? Because it doesn't explicitly say in the Bible that nothing else exists outside, that God didn't create anything else. But based on just the amount of what we consider M-class planets that orbit in the habitable zone around their particular sun, the star that's in the center of their solar system, there's planets that we can see out there based on telescope data that we gather, that there are planets that exist in a habitable zone outside of their star. And so those planets could potentially harbor life. Depending how long those planets have been orbiting, they could have intelligent life. So is it possible, in your opinion, or do you think that we are the quote unquote crux of creation?
I think the not trying to be honest. Please forgive me, but it may sound like it's like a cop out, but I couldn't even say whether it's possible because I just have absolutely no attainable reason that God has revealed to give that indication. So I'm just really at a neutral position to say I just don't know. And of course, everything is possible, but I just can't see a reason to think that that's a genuine possibility, because I've not.
I accept that.
Yeah, that's all I can say. But the only good thing is it's not salvation dependent, which is the key bit. So, but thank you.
That's the key. That's the key. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you got other people. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
James, can I please suggest something? I really would like to press further and have a deeper conversation. Could you please email and we can have a Zoom conversation or something? It'd be lovely to go through some of the details, as to why you are thinking in a particular way. I have some particular answer to even the question that you asked right now, but in the interest of time, we'll move on. But if you can email, please, that'll be lovely.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
James, thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
That was. Okay. I think we're going to go with Atheist. I hate everything because he has been quite.
But we have had him before, Ray.
Oh, have we? Okay.
Yeah, we have had him before, but and he was also third in line. I think.
Oh, you're right. I haven't scrolled my page correctly. So there's Naren.
Naren, we can bring him on board and then maybe have one question or something. Naren is also a regular with us, so we can ask one. We can ask through God's grace, maybe one question or something, and then we can move on.
Over to you, Naren. Welcome.
Hi, Arun. How about you?
Hey, by God's grace, we are fine, Naren. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing fine. I've been waiting.
Sure. Naren, what did you have any particular question about atheism, agnosticism, or?
I have a question about God's nature.
From a Christian perspective?
Yes.
I think best is tomorrow for that then.
Okay.
What do you think? Naren, tomorrow is when we a free-flowing conversation about Christianity.
If you're able to join tomorrow, that might be a better option, because we are really looking from an atheist agnostic position for tonight's stream.
Naren, alternatively, we can even have a Zoom conversation if you want. I know we are sort of we know each other. If you want to have a Zoom conversation, that's fine too. I know it's late, terribly late for you. Of course, you're based in India. It's terribly late. So yeah, either tomorrow or but I don't want you to stay awake late in the evening, late at night. If you want to have a Zoom conversation some other time, that's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Naren.
Thanks, Naren. Okay. I'm guessing it's not Guardian of Deluxe. It's more likely to be Guardian of Delusion or something.
Guardian of Delusions. He considers that to be an acronym of God.
Oh, I get it.
Cool. Did you want to bring him on, Ray?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Welcome on board, Guardian. Do you want to
Hello.
introduce yourself?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
By God's grace, okay.
I was wondering, why is it wrong to be an atheist? Like, why are you guys attacking atheists?
Why is it right to be an atheist? You tell us.
I mean, according to Occam's razor, let's say, the simplest is the best. So why should I subscribe to some more ideas about certain entity which I have never seen, which I've never experienced, which doesn't make planes fly, which doesn't make vaccines, which doesn't save people, which rather instills a sense of fear in our mind. It puts us in a cage, mental cage, rather than, as an atheist, I have this freedom, but at the same time, I have rights and responsibilities because we live in a society.
If you were given the right, if you were given the freedom to jump into a well, would you do that, Guardian of Delusion?
No, you know why? Because
Why?
I have a steady brain. I'm not
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So now suddenly you have a brain. you know, you're not particularly. That's interesting.
Sorry, let me speak. I don't need a Bible to tell me not to jump into
No,
a
no.
well.
So wait a second. So earlier, you wanted the freedom. You wanted the freedom to do whatever you want. Now suddenly you've got a brain that you don't want to jump into the well. That's interesting, huh?
These are false equivalencies. I'm sorry. These are false equivalencies. I don't know where you are going with it.
Okay, would you like to have the freedom, the next time you travel by an airplane, to jump out of the airplane?
No, of course not. I will try to preserve myself because evolutionarily, that's how evolution works,
Evolution doesn't exist for it to work anymore. Just
What do you
stick
mean
with
it doesn't exist?
stick with the discussion we're having right now. So in other words, very simply, it'll be utterly ridiculous to essentially say that it is good to have freedom in many, many areas of life.
I don't want to live my entire life thinking that I might end up in hell or something, someplace I've never seen before. And have you seen atheists jumping out of planes? How many times have you seen atheists jumping out of planes?
How many times have I seen it? That's no one was suggesting. That was merely off the back of what you said earlier, that freedom is always better. And my point is, freedom clearly is not always better.
But I have, of course,
I
have stated
one second.
with rights.
One second, Guardian, please. In many situations, clearly you don't want that freedom. You don't want to jump off the plane. No one is going to say, hey, give me the freedom to jump off the plane. Unless you give me the freedom, then I'm going to quit this world or whatever. No one is going to ridiculously say that. What we want, rather, is a sensible behavior.
And you think humans don't have the sensible behavior without a Bible? We are just animals, wild animals running around killing everyone?
I think you're not being sensible right now in responding to a point which wasn't even yet made, please. And therefore, please pay attention, Guardian of Delusions.
What you are saying is implying...
I didn't say anything, please.
What you're saying is implying that.
Okay. Maybe you didn't understand earlier. Let's be clear. No one here, neither Ray nor me, nor Greg, none of our team is anywhere suggesting, hey, without the Bible we can't live and therefore we must be Christians. No one is saying that.
Then why do we need the Bible? Why do we need the Bible?
Wow. Look, Guardian of Delusions, unless you wait and listen.
No, you can call me God also. That's my big name. You can just put an acronym. You can call me God also.
The disagreement we're having right now is not in figuring out how to call you, but in rather saying you need to wait when I'm speaking. You're solving a problem.
I will reduce your energy expense.
Okay.
So just say God, it reduces your energy expense. Save energy. Why waste energy? It's limited.
The pride of man is tremendous. The arrogance of man is tremendous. It's absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I don't see any pride in it. All I see is facts.
Cool. Okay. Are you? What is your motivation right now? Would you like to have a conversation with us, or just want people
Of
to?
course. Come to the main point, please. Instead of saying atheists jumping from planes or whatever, why do we need a Bible? Just tell me that.
Ray, you're on mute, Ray. Sorry.
Yeah, I keep doing that. I'll just make a quick comment, Guardian. You can certainly cope with life up to a certain point without the Bible. There are certain obvious things you can do. You know, you need to eat. You'll work that out as you grow old and get educated and so forth. You can make these determinations, but it doesn't give you a number of things. Ultimately, it doesn't give you an answer to true morality. It doesn't give you an answer to how this world could be truly made without issues, without wickedness, without the problem of growing old and dying, and that this life is all there is. There's no answer we can work out ourselves on our own to solve this. So we've got many limitations, which the Bible actually provides an answer to. And the difference that we have here is that when we look into the scripture and when we follow its advice, one thing it does is it brings us to a personal relationship with God. It's the first thing it does. The second, it provides an answer to solve the world that we cannot ourselves resolve, that there is a way that we can have an answer to resolving the wickedness, resolving the issue of growing old and having a very limited lifespan, and having an answer of an opportunity to live forever in a world without all the issues that we experience. This is what is offered by that same God.
Can I
So
reply?
once you let me to quickly finish. So once you get that evidence that God is real in your life, and you see where he points to through his word of what he offers, then there is something that is offered through the Bible that cannot be offered outside.
Okay.
In other words, long story short, dear friend, no one is saying.
Let me reply. Let me
No,
reply.
no one is saying without Bible you can't live and therefore become a Christian. We're rather saying Bible is true
Okay, let
and
me
it is the
reply now.
word
Let
of
me
God,
reply. Okay,
and
let me reply. I
therefore
have
you
some
best
points
to
in my
follow it.
mind. Let me reply. I have heard this gentleman. He was much better in explaining and putting forward his points than Arul randomly saying jumping from planes and stuff, whatever. But yeah, to what you said, sir, my counter argument is, why is it so difficult to digest the fact that there might be nothingness? Like, where did we come from? No one just asked where did we come from. Like, I was born, you were born. What was it before we were born? We were, first of all, for 9 months, maybe we were in the womb of our mother for 9 months, 8 months, whatever. And then before that, what was there? Nothing. We were in the form of sperms and eggs. So our
Sorry, Guardian,
personality,
what's your point here?
our personality wasn't there. Like the person of us, we weren't there. So after that, wouldn't it be logical to assume that since we weren't there, we won't continue to exist? We will cease to exist.
Wow. That's
So I mean, for example, I am 40 years of age right now. Because I was 39 last year, I would be 39 next year.
You go back to where you came from. You came from nothingness. You go.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Now I am 40. I go back to where I came from, which is 39 next year. Yeah, I was 39 last year, so I'll go back to that 39 next year, and the year after that I'll be 38, and I'll go back. Yeah.
Sure, you can do that once regenerative medicine
You're,
advances.
right.
Yes, you can do that.
Look, I'm pointing out to the absurdity of the points you're making
it's not
And you are
like that.
saying I am the one who
You
makes
have
these
this
silly
age-
arguments.
You have
This is
this
ridiculous.
cage of religion. You are looking at it through this cage of theism. It's as simple as this. We started from
Hey,
nothing.
Guardian, what's your name? Guardian, what's your name?
My name is God.
Okay, you seem to know a lot of things about me. Do you know where I live?
I mean, I don't. This is irrelevant to the discussion.
Look, you seem to know what is going through my mind. How
When
come you
did I
don't
say
know where
that?
I live?
When did I say that?
Well, you're speaking on my behalf. Why are you doing this?
What do you mean I'm speaking on your behalf?
You are saying that I am saying something because of some reason, as if you know what is going through my brain cells. Why can't you just stick to what you can present, as opposed to desperately trying to speak on my behalf? You speak for you, I speak for me. Good deal. What do you think?
I don't see why you are claiming that I'm speaking for you. But anyways, this is just a word game. But anyways,
No,
what I'm saying-
you are repeating multiple times throughout the conversation. You just need to go through the recording. You are repeating multiple times. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this just because you have this in mind? Why are you doing that just because, as if you know what is in my mind? Ray, why are you a Christian, Ray? Ray, why are you a Christian? Is that because you're afraid of hell that you're a Christian?
No. That's
I
because
don't even
am.
have a clue. Yeah, why am I a Christian? Because I know God, I am a Christian. Why does this gentleman want to say I am a Christian because of the reason that he has in his mind? Why does he do this?
So
Why do
Guardian,
many...
so what we're basically saying here is our evidence is very, very personal and very real, albeit in a different way to other forms of reality. I'll give you an example. I got married recently, but I have absolute convincement that my wife loves me, but she can't put that love on a plate or go through some scientific process to demonstrate it. But yet I believe it. There are certain things in life you don't have the physical way of tangible way that you can be convinced of something, but you still know it's true. Because of the experience I've had with God in many ways, as my testimony is absolutely convincing enough for me to believe in God. And I'm happy with that level of convincement to, if you like, put my life for God 100%. That's the level of convincement I've got. It's that impressive. So that's why I believe. And when I look at scripture as God's word, that is the best evidence I've got of God's communication as a written communication to back up the belief that I have. I go anywhere else, doesn't make any sense. But when I go to scripture, not only does it make sense and ties back to my belief, but I also get from God his, if you like, working in me when I read his word. When I read his word, I also get his spirit working in me at the same time. So there's an amazing combination between his word, his reality of himself through his spirit, and of course the evidence we've got through the life of Jesus Christ. All the combination of those things is unbelievably compelling as an individual. And all we do ask for people is to consider this, because one, there is some sense to it. There is some very good logical sense to it. You know, when we look at the universe, it makes absolute sense that it needs to come from a very, very sophisticated, intelligent mind.
Why so?
Well, why not? Because look how incredibly sophisticated the universe is, how fine-tuned it is, how amazing, even at a molecular level. All the
Give anything a certain amount of time, it will just fall into place by randomness.
But time is not a designer. It's not intelligent. It's just it's not even a thing. It doesn't even exist.
Have you heard about entropy?
Have
you heard about entropy, second law of thermodynamics? Have you heard about them?
Yes, but what we're talking about, all you're talking about,
entropy goes against what you said, not helps in what you said.
Well, if you give considerable amount of time, entropy builds and breaks also.
Okay, where in the world do we have an entropy which builds?
all you see is because of randomness falling into place and then forces.
Excuse me. Do you know entropy or not? Now I'm going to ask the same question you asked Ray earlier. Do you know entropy?
Yes.
What is the second law of thermodynamics? What's that?
Well, you are asking me.
As time progresses, what happens?
What do you mean? As time progresses, what happens?
Do you know or don't you know? Why did you bring this in? I can't.
Well, you want the
Do you
second
know
law,
entropy or not?
The second law simply states the total entropy of an isolated system, which is, let's say the universe is an isolated system. It always increases over time, or it remains constant but never decreases.
Yes. What does that mean? Entropy increases. What does that mean?
Disorderedness or randomness of a system.
No, wow. Who says randomness? It's disorderliness, not randomness. Where do you get this idea? It's randomness.
Let's go and check any scientific journal. It talks about both disorderedness and randomness.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let's. Okay. So your experience is that you just wait for some time, and then you get life. You get. Will I get some pocket money if I wait for some time? Will I suddenly get some pocket money if I wait for some time? Maybe food on my plate. The bread that my daughter has left behind. Will it grow suddenly, full slice?
I won't answer this question because these questions are ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. It'll demonstrate your utter ridiculous arguments. Absolutely.
And regarding love, you said you know
Oh,
that.
wow. Don't begin teaching us anything.
To Ray. I'm talking to Ray. Sir, you said about love. You know, your wife loves you, but the thing is, it's a two-way thing, and it has to take the form of an expression. If there is no expression of love, no matter how delusional you are, or like, you have to be delusional to believe that your wife loves you if there is no expression of love. But in case of God, for example, there is no expression of God in the sense that God is not communicating to you. It's one way. It's just one way link. You are loving God.
This is Ray. Remember I said earlier, he knows you. He knows your address. He knows how old you are. He knows your bank details. He knows everything about you.
No, Ray just stated about love. I think you missed the point. Ray talked about love, saying that he knows his wife loves him, so on and so forth, and therefore about God and stuff. He just took a
How do you know Ray did not experience God? How do you know? Why did you even speak about that? Do you have personal experience?
How did you experience God? I would love to know about that, first of all.
Yes, good. That's a good question to ask. Ask. Don't speak on his behalf. Ask. It's a good thing to do. I don't know why so many of these
atheists. So here's my point. In the same way my wife expresses her love for me, God expresses his love for me too.
How?
Right. So he does that in many different ways. So one of the ways is that when I pray to him to help me with a situation or provide an answer to a situation or whatever, I get answers. When I prayed for him for healing, he healed me on the spot. When I prayed for some understanding.
Can you please be specific? These are more generalized, more broad. Can you please
don't worry about all that. These are personal experiences that I've experienced with God. When I have prayed about many different things for people, when I pray and I see the results as a result, when this happens time and time again, that is strong evidence of God. So that case is undeniable to the level that I am personally in experience. And what also supports that is I'm not alone. I'm one of millions of Christians that have the same testimony, not obviously specifically identical, but have the same type of experience that they can emphatically confirm that they have experienced as well. And that is extremely strong, powerful evidence. And that's like very similar to my wife. I don't know for certain that she loves me, but by the evidence of the way she acts and the way she treats me, the way I get answers to things in the same way as I get answers from God, that provides me enough evidence to convince me. She could, of course, make it all up and it could be untrue, but because of the convincing level of argument of the way she demonstrates her love, as much as the demonstration about that of God proving himself real in my personal life is that strong and that convincing, that powerful, that's why I believe it.
Thank you. Now, my reply is there is possibly 1 out of a billion of Hindus and 1 out of billion of Muslims who will say the same thing, that
No.
God is answering their prayers.
No.
What
But
do you mean now? There are so many successful people or happy people or whatever metrics you want to use that claim that God is answering their prayers. So now we have Jesus or whichever God you pray to, Yahweh or whatever, and now we have Krishna or other gods like Allah. So what is the thing now? Because Christianity says there's no God other than Yahweh or the Trinity or whatever you guys believe in, right? So now we have Krishna here also blessing the Hindus. There is definitely 1 out of a billion Hindus who will claim that Krishna is answering their question.
That's you said 1 out of a billion.
At least, I said, at least.
Right. Here's where we got an issue. If it was to be true that God was answering, or the God of the Hindu faith was true, and that was the true God, then you would have a vast number of Hindus receiving answers to prayer.
Oh, there is, I said at least, so which means there is more than one. But as in this case, you are one out of the million or billions of Christians, right? You are one of them. So in that example, I said there will be another one who attests and gives this idea that God is answering to them. Like I said, for that reason, 1 out of the billion. If you talk to one, if you go and talk to one, but there is definitely more than one, because otherwise Hinduism wouldn't survive. Otherwise, Islam wouldn't survive. None of them would survive.
Not at all. So when you look at other religions, they do not have the level of testimony that supports their belief in God anywhere near the Christian faith. There's a significant difference, because obviously people can be deceived, and Satan, as we know, could act, deceive people in believing that they are being answered by God. But
by giving them success, by giving them happiness,
you wouldn't have.
How do you know that Satan is not deceiving
One
you?
second.
How do you know that Satan is not deceiving you?
1 second. You're starting to get into the interrupting mode here. You're going to probably have to just try to be a bit patient to let us finish our points. So when you look at the Christian faith, there is an incredible high level of consistency across all Christians around the world that test up these incredible testimonies, huge number, and consistently across global, and that's just not possible unless it was true. It's just not possible. We are talking absolutely phenomenal answers to prayer, phenomenal communications from God, which is why we are so absolutely convinced. And of course, God is not going to be answering the prayers for faiths on people that believe in a God that's not himself. You can't believe in a made-up God and get the same response in the way that God operates. That's a significant difference.
To me, honestly, it seems double standards, because you are claiming that Satan is answering to the prayers of Hindu followers or Muslim followers, and then at the same time you are claiming that God is answering your own prayers. Like, how do you justify that? How do you prove that God is answering to your prayers and not Satan is not deceiving you?
As I said, because the way in which I have the testimony, plus the fact that we have absolutely billions over the years that have also similar testimonies, and that is the consistent evidence. If I was just an isolated case, or there were many, or there's a small percentage, there would be some debate, but it's not the case at all. I mean, God promises that he would answer prayers to those who genuinely seek him. And
Ray, can I? So you and I understand a little bit of Islam. Maybe God in our Deletions doesn't know. Will a Muslim ever claim that they have related to Allah?
I don't want to go into the theologies. I'm just saying what they claim, that God is answering their prayers or whatever. Christians are claiming God is answering their prayers. Hindus are claiming God
Would you
is
like
answering their
excuse me,
prayers.
instead of speaking for all billion Muslims, please, Ray, we are aware of Islamic theology. No Muslim would ever dare to claim they relate to Allah. This we know for a fact. No Muslim would dare to claim that they relate to Allah. If they did, they'll be stoned to
That
death.
is shirk. That is shirk. I know.
Right.
Good. And therefore, don't even claim things which are
Now you have become like, you have understood what I'm claiming, or you have gone inside my head and you have seen what I'm claiming. I never said they relate to God. I'm not talking about theology. I'm saying the claims that they make. They say God is answering their prayers. That's what I said.
Will you cut me short? What do you want to do?
Arul, you just draw false equivalencies.
Are you cutting me short again? Excuse me. When you speak, we are listening. When we speak, why do you want to cut short?
Because what you say doesn't make sense.
Good. Thank you very much.
At least
So
it makes
please,
sense.
excuse
When
me.
Ray speaks,
Please.
it at least makes sense.
Wow. Look, either you want to have a conversation with us, or please go to your bedroom, play ping pong with your own sound. What do you want to do? Do you want to have a conversation with us, or did you just want to hear your own voice?
I want to play ping pong with God.
Sure. Guardian of delusion. We can see why you are guardian of delusion. So please, let me ask you this again. Would you like to have a conversation with us, or would you like to just hear what you're saying? What is the objective?
If you put a sensical fact or logic in front of me, I'm all ears,
Sure, but you're not the king of the universe, and so we're not looking for your arbitration here. The simple question is, would you like to have a conversation with us or not?
Sure.
Good. And therefore, can I please request, when you are speaking, we are listening, please give the same courtesy. Happy?
Well, I am not the king of the universe or whatever, so it doesn't matter if I'm happy or not.
Wow.
You can continue. I'm here. I'm hearing. I'm all ears.
Cool. We need to focus on the substance of the conversation.
Sure, go ahead. Yes.
Cool. My point very simply was, a Muslim can pray, and even if he receives something, because he can't relate to God, he can never claim it is that Allah to whom he has spoken who has answered his prayers. He simply can't confirm. It's like me saying, hey, I put through a letterbox something, and as I put through this phone through a letterbox, suddenly out of the letterbox comes some 10 pounds, but I don't know who gave it. I simply don't know. You see what I'm saying? A Muslim, unless he could relate to the Islamic Allah, he can never claim it is Islamic Allah who is answering him. He can never claim, theoretically speaking, too. He can only claim, I prayed and someone seems to have answered. Who? He can't confirm. Simply because he will never claim he is relating to Islamic Allah. Whereas Ray, you can ask Ray, do you know Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Do you know him experientially, personally?
Yes.
Does he relate to you personally?
Yes.
Can a Hindu say something? I can speak, I can.
Yes, a Hindu can say yes. A Hindu can say that they can relate to, let's say, Krishna, because Krishna took the human form, ate, slept, did the leelas or divine plays or whatever.
Did you interrupt again? Dear friend, okay, sure. Best wishes, dear friend.
Right. Who have we got? I've got something here called an interesting title. Muslim call me
I see. Almadi, yeah. Guardian of Deletion, we need to speak to you later. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
God's blessings to you.
Thank you. Bye.
So Muslim, call me Al Mahdi. You're on stage. Welcome. An interesting title today, so I'm intrigued. So do introduce yourself.
Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Peace be with you, my friends. How are you?
By God's grace, okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Congratulations, Dre, on your marriage.
Thank you.
That is a testament that Allah has smiled upon you. Yes?
So I don't know if you realize this is the atheist agnostic stream. So we are challenging that position. So from what position are you coming from here?
Well, my position, I don't practice religion. I have studied all the words of God, including all the religions, the Vedas, the Quran, the Torah, the Injil, or the Bible of the Gospel of Jesus, as you would call it. But I don't study I don't practice religions itself, the rituals or any of that type of stuff. But my question, in a sense, will pertain to stories that all religions contain in their translations and in their interpretation. So we have the translation is not an interpretation. We have that distinction, right?
Yeah.
So in it, they're talking about Musa or Moses, as you would know, having a staff. And this staff is turned into a serpent. And the Christian believes, I can't speak for all of you, but, in your understanding, you believe that Moses turned a stick into a snake, basically. That when he cast it on the ground, it became a slithering serpent in the essence as we know as the animal kingdom. Am I good to say that?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. And in the Islamic, now I don't practice Islam. I practice the real Islam, which is Isa se salam. Se is the Hebrew word for the meaning of lamb. Salam is peace. Isa is the Yeshua or the Jesus that you would know. So a Muslim, in the understanding for people, mu is a prefix that goes into the Asiatic word. So mu means not. And then the salim is a short form word for peace. So if I don't have peace between myself and God, I need Isa se salam in order to bring the peace back between myself and Allah. So for your understanding of that. So I don't practice the Arab Islam. I practice the Keturah, which is what Muhammad, my grandfather, was, a Keturah's children. So if I were to ask you, how many children did Abraham have? Could you give me an answer? A correct one?
Oh, many.
He had how many though exactly? Do you know for sure?
I can't remember how many, but Keturah was one of his. What
He had
was his wife?
six sons by her, one by Hagar, one by Sarah, so a total of 8 sons. A lot of people who, teach religions, they always say he had 2, Isaac and Ishmael. So they don't really study their word very well. So the understanding though is the staff. So when I was listening to you, I wanted to give Ray a reference about when the guy was talking about aliens, and then I'll get back to my stick. I just want to give you a reference. So in the very beginning of Genesis, it states that the Elohim create the earth. The earth was formless and void. It was empty, and darkness covered the face of the deep. So right there, the only thing of creation that's created is our universe. There is no other thing. It's all empty and void. So the only thing that God speaks about creating that is like a living essence of his own image is ourselves. So there's no such thing as aliens. So when someone asks you that, you can refer back to Genesis 1, where there is nothing, and then what is created comes into the existence known as you and I. And then for you, when dinosaurs were around, in that essence, yes, they lived with human beings, because there's many archaeological evidences where the humans and the dinosaurs all dwelt together. And they even have carved drawings out of rock where the men were capturing the dinosaurs. And like you said, I loved what you said. Leviathan and Behemoth are the very words for what we have created today as the word dinosaur. So I like that how you answered that Levithian. That is the correct interpretation of that. But I have a problem with the Moses thing for all of you. So you're kind of a scholarly person, you seem. Right? Am I correct in saying that you have you seem like you know a lot science and archaeological and stuff, right? Could I be fair to
Right.
say that? Okay. So you know the word mancy. The word
Uh,
mancy, like necromancy would be one type of mancy. So the taking of bones or something, cast them on the ground to read prophecy or read somebody's fortune is a form of mancy. It's an ancient ritual practice that was practiced thousands and thousands of years ago, including in the days of Moses. And Moses, they have in the Injil and the Bible. So I'll use your guys' word. So in the Bible and the Quran, they talk of Pharaoh and his magicians, but the word magician is really a word for priest. And the magic that they say is magic that they practice is the word called Heka, which is the form of worship. So the word Heka is mistranslated even in Google and everything. It's not the word Heka does not mean magic. It means the way that they worshipped as a priest, what they did. So in the turning of the time when Moses was around, there was a goddess named Wadjet, Wadjet. And Wadjet was a woman with the head of a woman and the body of a serpent. And sometimes she's depicted with the head of a serpent, the body of a woman. And this is the goddess that would watch over the so-called son of Ra, or the Pharaoh. And she was in Upper and Lower Egypt. And this would have been the greatest god at the time for Moses living, that they would have identified as this is Ra's companion in that manner, that this is the protector of all the sons that God or Allah, Yahweh, whatever names of our tongues that we give our creator, create. So in the essence, when he's meeting God at this bush, and God asks him, what is that in your hand? He says, it is my, not staff. The correct translation is, it is my crook, which is this thing here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's this thing here that every firstborn son received. And though Moses wasn't born, he was adopted by Pharaoh, and he became the firstborn to his household. And he studied all the Egyptian way rather than the Hebrew and everything as depicted in the Injil. But he would have known that Wadjet was the main goddess, and he, committing murder, fled to the land of Midian, to where he met God at the bush. I like the Quran version of the bush rather than the Christian version of it. If you guys have ever read the different versions, so there's not a tree that's not on fire. Rather, there's a fire in the midst of a desert, which makes more sense that shepherds, usually when you're a Bedouin, you gather around a fire. Somebody's already appeared there at night. They've built the fire, and then everybody else with their sheep would come to that fire, perhaps ask for an ember from them to go build their own fire elsewhere. But usually they all gathered around together in a camp for safety and numbers because of the wild animals and stuff that were around, and to protect their sheep. So the story in the Quran sounds to me a little bit better than the one that is found in the Injil. And I'm well aware of Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. So I don't follow completely all the way books in that essence. Yes.
One second, dear friend, can I please? So are you going to ask a question, or what is the intent right now?
Oh, so
This is a stream on atheism and agnosticism, just so you're
right,
aware.
I understand that. So in the essence is, you would call me someone that's not believing in your doctrination of Constantinople's mainstream that you have created into your Christianity world in 320 AD. So my view of it is the Injil, the Bible that you guys have, is not a correct translation and an interpretation, nor is the Quran, mind you. So when you look at the truth and the evidence of science, archaeology, and the actual living of what people were doing in the time period, when God tells Moses to cast down his staff and it turns into a snake, what they did in Egypt is, if you were to become a pharaoh, you would take your crook, it's a staff, a stick, and they would throw it on the ground. and whoever stick landed or crossed on top of the other, and they write in the your Bible, his staff ate their staff, meaning this one's greater than that one. So if his staff fell on top of all the other two, it means that Moses' staff ate their staff. So there, God does not practice witchcraft. It is actually condemned, but yet the Christian and the Muslim both teach that God is practicing a form of witchcraft when he's taking a stick and turning it into a snake, which would go against his own word. All seed bears fruit of its own kind, and we know that trees don't make snakes. So God would not do such activity against his own word. So there would be a greater understanding of the truth of that concept of the staff. So basically, Allah was reminding Moses, because he fled from murder. His hands were bloody. So when he, blood on your hand, you've committed murder, you are a sinner. Take your hand, put it in your side. Now show it to me. It became white as leper, but it wasn't leprous. It became white like as. That means God forgave him. And then he said, take your staff and throw it on the ground. When Moses did this, the remembrance of who he was, as he is Pharaoh now, came back into his remembrance. So God says, now pick up your staff and do what I say, and go back to Egypt and demand that they let your people go. Let my people go in that sense. So only a Pharaoh, a true Pharaoh, could go and battle against another Pharaoh in the way of their Heka. You had to have a staff from your father in order to appear in the court of Pharaoh's court, in order to have an argument brought forth or your case brought forth. You had to have some position of power or authority. Moses would have had the ultimate position because he actually had Wadjet on his side. So in that understanding of casting the sticks, that is called Mansi. So God was using
Is there a question somewhere coming?
Yeah, so the question is if you guys claim that you are correct and you are following Jesus, the Most High God's Son, this is what my banner means behind me, Yeshua, the Son of Allah. Now you'll look at me and you'll say Muslims don't believe that because Allah takes up no sons, but you misinterpretate that because it really...
I thought you were going to focus on the question this time.
I am, but I'm just getting to, it takes a while for you to understand me and what I'm going, to teach or to ask. Allah is the same in the Christian, because if Jesus and your Christianity ideology, I and the Father are one, right? You say that I and the Father are one. Therefore, if they state that Allah takes up no sons, it's really talking about Gnostic Christians that broke away, that started to say that Jesus didn't die. He got married to Mary Magdalene, and he had sons and daughters.
Is there a question somewhere? Is there a question coming sometime?
That is your belief. That is your belief. I'm proving that your Christianity is corrupted, and so is the Islam is corrupted.
In other words, there is no
what I'm saying.
I don't know what do I say.
Well, the question is why do you guys believe?
So far?
What is
you know what you've proven so far? What you've proven so far, without a shadow of doubt, is that you don't even keep your commitment. That's what you've proven so far.
Wait a minute. Wait. Are you saying I'm a Muslim?
No, I am saying.
Yeah, you said I'm not keeping something. What are you accusing me of? Remember what you did to that other guy? The other guy was accusing you of something. You're doing the same back to me.
You'll find out. You said you're going to ask a question, and you still don't ask a question. You're here just to give.
Question. Why do you believe? I asked at the very beginning. Everyone who hears it, why do you, as a Christian, believe that Moses turned a stick into a snake when that's not the proper interpretation? You don't speak Egyptian tongue. I do. And that's not the proper interpretation. Moses would have wrote in Egyptian, not Hebrew. He didn't even understand Hebrew. So anyone who claims as a Jew that is the interpretation in the Hebrew, because when you look at the concordance and all your wording, where you want to
ask the question?
Yes, the question I asked you, why as a Christian do you believe in that story when you and I know in science and in reality?
Did you ask a question?
Yes, you can ask one. What?
No. The very idea of asking a question is that you ask and then you stop.
I
I
asked you,
can't feel stop at all.
I asked you
To
as
me,
a
you're not
Christian,
asking
why
anything.
you, because you're asking the question again. I asked you a question. You repeat the question you asked me. Are you asking a question? I asked you a question. Why, as a Christian, do you believe in a story that I can prove is a lie?
Right, I'm going to put you on mute, Muslim, because let's get Errol to respond now. Because after you've asked the question, you have carried on for quite a considerable amount of time, which is not really the ideal for when you ask a question. You wait for the reply. So let's go on to Errol now to respond to your question. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Cool. Of course, this is not pertaining to this stream, by the way, to begin with. But to your question has many assumptions, not the least of which is your claim that Moses did not speak Hebrew. He would have spoken only Egyptian. It's one of the assumptions. If I were to ask you what evidence you'd have for that, I'm pretty sure you'd struggle. You
No,
also have many.
I'll get. Do you want the evidence for that verse in the Bible that states that he needed Aaron to speak on his behalf because his tongue would not speaking the language of the people? I'm well documented in the Christianity faith, my friend. I know your gospel. And Paul is not part of the gospel of Jesus, by the way.
Did you cut me short this time?
Like you did me earlier? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. But don't make an accusation about me and put words in my mouth, okay? Because look, you see what my shirt says? Can you read it since you won't bring me on the screen? Be careful when you're talking to me. You don't know whether I have studied Yale and Harvard and have degrees in education. Yours don't make assumptions is what I'm saying, okay?
Irrelevant.
Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead with what you were saying.
I am trying to see if you are able to hold a conversation. That's what I'm trying to see right now. Whether you are studied in Yale or Harvard or whatever else, irrelevant. The very reason I interrupted you multiple times, as you rightly note, those were interruptions, is because you said you asked a question, but then you still continued without stopping. The very idea of asking a question is that you ask and then you stop, so the other person can respond. I didn't try to put anything in your mouth. It was just a matter of an observation where you did not stop. That's all my observation was. Now, coming to the question I asked, Mama, my response. My response is very simple. You have plenty of assumptions in your argumentation, and I challenge you. If I were to ask you for evidence, you can't provide. One of those assumptions is the fact that you claim that Moses wouldn't have spoken in Hebrew. That's an assumption that you're making, which is a ridiculous assumption, but you're making that anyway. And if I were to ask you if you'd have evidence for that, do you have any evidence that Moses didn't speak in Hebrew?
Yes.
What's the evidence?
Your own Bible tells you why did Moses need Aaron to speak to the people of Israel the word of God? Did Moses speak to the people or did Aaron speak to the people?
Irrelevant. That's not because he didn't speak in Hebrew.
That's not irrelevant. Why did God tell Moses? Because what did Moses say to God? I do not speak. I don't speak. And God said, don't worry.
You don't speak. What? I don't speak. What? What did Moses say?
He doesn't speak the language of the people that he's going to bring forth out of Egypt.
Where did Moses say this? We will stop with this, by the way. I don't know. I don't know what. I really don't know. Do you have a printing press?
Ray is sitting there. Ray, can you look up your verse since you're Christian? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Do you print your own Bible? Do you print your own Bible?
Yes, I have it right here. So for you, 2 Peter verse 3 through 8. Will you read that for me? 2 Peter verse 3 through 8, because you believe in 6 days of creation. Let's pull that up to prove that I caught you in something that is not true, because if we look at your Bible itself, your own Bible says that you are wrong. In 2 Peter verse 3, 8. Chapter 3, or verse 8. It states, would you like me to read it or have you brought it up?
No, not interested.
No, it is necessary for you to look at, because if you're claiming to
My dear friend, you're off stage right now. Look, if you want to have your own channel, preach some message you want to preach, you're most welcome to do so. This is an atheism stream. We are trying to engage with atheists and agnostics. You've asked a simple question, and I'm trying to respond to the simple question that we asked earlier. And I responded by saying that your assumption that Moses did not speak Hebrew is clearly an assumption that you're making, which is demonstrably you can't, which you can't demonstrate. Yeah, and this is the point. We can't hear you. You can we can't hear you because you're not on stage. And so the point very simply is we'll just when I asked for evidence in relation to Moses, what you said was that Moses said that he can't speak Hebrew. We'll just read that text and we'll call it a day with you, please. In relation to Moses, what did he say to God in relation to what he could do or couldn't do? I'll simply get that for you and then we'll call it a day. Exodus chapter 4, verse 10.
Muslim, you've been taken off stage, so that we can't actually hear you, just so that we can have a chance to put our point over.
Exodus chapter 4, verse 10. Then Moses said to the Lord, "Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." He's not saying I can't speak Hebrew. He's just saying I struggle to speak. So the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth?" The Lord isn't saying who taught you language. He is talking about the ability of the mouth. Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. But he said, "Oh my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send." So the anger of the Lord has kindled against Moses and so on. Now, very simply, to claim that Moses couldn't speak Hebrew is ridiculous, can't be substantiated. Now, I hear that, I suggested that if you have some stuff that you wanted to declare to the world as your wonderful discoveries, I said you can start your channel and do that. And I hear that other people are saying that you might already have that channel. So that's lovely. You can try. But thank you very much. Unless you're on stage, we can't hear you. You know that. Unless you're on stage, we can't hear you. You know that, yeah. So we don't.
Continuing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
My friend, you're not on stage. We don't hear you. You can't shout from where you are to us. It simply won't work.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Cool. Ray, what do you want to do?
I think looking at the time, it's 11.
Yes.
I think we probably
Call it a day.
Call it a day, yeah, wrap up. I think one or two things I would just quickly mention. First of all is that we are really looking for evidence to prove that atheism,
dancing. I can't believe it.
Atheism is true. We're not looking at any other kind of discussions. We want people to be on point. We do want to have people to, if they have a point, make their point. If they have a question, ask the question and then wait for the response. And like here, not go on a sort of rant or whatever it is that just carries on and not allows a decent conversation. We had a couple of people as well that were just really not engaging on point to point. Make a point, stick to it. If you get a response on a particular point, respond to that point and take it one step at a time. And there we might have some progress. People really were flying all over the place from one thing to another. So we do recommend just really be a bit more structured. Take it one step at a time. Be patient, and let the conversation flow. As if you're in a bar or in a cafe, you're just having a gentle, relaxed conversation with someone, allowing it to be nice and two-way. This is what we're looking for. So we do encourage that for those that are interested. But it's been an interesting night. Still looking for some evidence from atheism. We've put some actually good arguments of why we believe as Christians there is a God. It's not really the stream for it, but we're happy to, from time to time, put that point over. If people then want to challenge it or ask questions about it, we do have that stream on a Friday night, and you're willing and invited to join those streams that happen every Friday. It's been an interesting night. Thanks ever so much, Errol, for all your points. I think I would have been struggling a couple of those without you, so thank you so much for your input. It's been a great evening, and thanks for everyone who's been joining and have the patience to listen and follow through, especially those in the chat and all our amazing heroes, Christian heroes that are supporting us. Thank you for your participation and structured effort through those comments. I can see there was 1,300 of them. It's been busy, but it's all good. We like busy, we like activity. So thanks for all those that participated. And in that note, over to you, Errol. If you could just close your prayer, that'd be great. Thank you.
Cool. Father, we come before your throne of grace, Lord. Thank you for this time, Lord. Even the gentleman who showed up last, is an evidence for the fact that the world is a very deluded place. People are into all sorts of delusions. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. God, the love that you showered upon us 2,000 years ago around on the cross, that we might have eternal life in you. And we can see people all over the place, trying to do their own stuff and so on. We only pray and ask, Lord, that everyone who showed up on the stream today would carefully consider their interaction with us today and might take you seriously. And for those who have been watching, pray for your blessings, Lord. For those who are atheists, agnostics, non-Christians, we pray for your blessings for them, that they might consider Jesus seriously, and for your blessings for the Christians too, for the vital work they do in supporting the conversations, to go on. Help us, Lord, we pray. Lord, ultimately, we want people to be saved. We want people to begin to make sense. We want people to understand who you are. Help people, Lord. Let the challenges that we have raised today serve as reminders for them for the next week, 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so they can get their minds aligned with what is known, what is a fact, which is that you came into human history and laid down your life for us. Common all things in hands. Bless Brother Ray. Thank you for all the lovely work that he does. Bless the other brothers and sisters in the group and the brothers and sisters in the live chat, Lord. Take care of everyone. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
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 Have a good evening, everyone. Sleep well. Take care.
Cool.
Till
Thank you
next
very much,
time.
Brother Ray. God's blessings.
You too.
Bye.
God
Good night,
bless.
everyone. Bye-bye.